I met a gypsy.
Righto, so we're good.
We're on, ready to rip.
We're in. Yeah, no, very, very highly requested guest. I get asked a lot about a Billy Bolt podcast, so I'm pretty chuffed that we're doing it. One after your boy Thomas as well.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I'm pretty humbled that there's been so highly requested and that people obviously like what we're doing and want to hear me waffling a bit more than we usually do.
Yeah, no, we're all here for it, mate. I've been keen as well because I've been around bikes forever, and the name Billy Bolt just bang, all of a sudden it's on, and seemingly out of nowhere, and then you do a little bit of research. And you find out that you kind of did come out of nowhere. But before we go fully into the backstory, because I know it's epic, what have you been up to recently? How's it all been going? Start of the new year, all that jazz?
Yeah, been busy really. I think Europe kind of seems like it's nearing the end of the restrictions, COVID, all of the rest of the drama and the nightmare I've had for the last couple of years. So we've had like the Super Enduro Championship, which is like the indoor enduro cross racing, a few different name variations, whatever. So that championship's ran, a couple of the races were meant to be January, have been delayed till March, but other than that, it's kind of ran as normal. So we had one round in December and then one round last weekend in Budapest in Hungary. Yeah. So I've mainly just kind of been in Spain, riding and prepping for that. Kind of since the end of the outdoor championship, we don't really get much of a break in my world. So I went straight from the outdoor championship to get ready for indoors. Started indoor championship. Had a quick trip to South Africa to my girlfriend's place for Christmas, and then flew back straight to Spain, and then rode a couple of weeks in Spain. Did the second round of the championship last weekend, and then came back to England for a British Championship race, which I just did yesterday. And then a few more days in England this week before I'll head back to Spain to get ready for the next round, which is in Israel in about 3 weeks' time, or 2.5 weeks' time.
That's wild.
Yeah, busy. It's kind of how it's always been, to be honest, for me. That I've like, with kind of living where and growing up where I did in the UK, there's not really anywhere to ride nearby. I was like the minimum, or like the closest place just to practice is like an hour minimum drive away. So I've always kind of just went from one place to the next. I stayed on friends' sofas. I went from, got a lift to like a race, and then ended up going in another van somewhere else to go and ride the next week, and kind of just fully lived the gypsy life since I was, like I say, like 11, 12, and first started kind of getting somewhat serious with my racing or riding, because I was doing trials back then, obviously. So it sounds busy and pretty hectic when you explain it to people, but it's literally just how I've been for so long now. It's kind of all I've known, which keeps you busy. It's better than sitting around doing nothing.
Oh man, it's been crazy because I mean, yeah, obviously Gypsy Tales, like that's sort of where it all come from, you know. It's like you kind of just, once you're in the two-wheel world, or like just racing or competing in general, you're just sort of all over the map, and couches and living in vans and everything like that. And COVID was just the biggest shock to the system for me, because it just went dead. And it was like the first time in my life I ever didn't travel and didn't go kind of crazy doing shit every single minute of every single day. And then now that it's opening up, and then I've traveled to Bali, I'm just like, holy fuck, how did I used to do this? Like it's actually gone the other way now of like,
oh really?
Oh yeah, man! Like just insane.
You want to be in one place now, and then to go from one to the next is a big job.
Yeah. It's like it actually tripped me out, because I was like, oh, back to the old ways, you know. And then because like where I live in Australia is like, I've just 2 kilometers away from my house is a studio, 5 kilometers is the gym, and then unless I go riding on the weekend, like you sort of literally just in a
circle.
box.
Yeah.
So it's been a trip to change.
Yeah, COVID was weird. I was like at home. When I stay in the UK, I'd either stay at my parents' house still, or kind of between Ed. So my mechanic lives not too far from Ed. So it's like usually just between like one of the boys' houses, and then I'll go back up home to Newcastle for like a couple of days a week, or like on the weekend to just go and to ride motocross or something with my friends from back home. So obviously like COVID hit and I was like at home, like real home in Newcastle just for like months on end, and I'd like not the longest time I'd spent there since I left school when I was like 17, 18 was probably like a week maximum. So like 3 months stuck in one place, and I'm just like, wow, this is weird. And then I remember like that first flight, we actually started to like do some testing as soon as like we could travel for work reasons or whatever. The factory and the teams and stuff were like pretty keen to just get back to normal, and I guess like justify paying were and stuff like that, and like actually getting some work done. So like we started to do some testing and stuff pretty early on, of like 2020 it would have been, like the beginning of last year. So I remember like them first few flights back after like not having, the bags had just been collecting dust, and usually like my hand luggage bag and stuff like that is just ready. You just pick it up and go to the airport. And then I'm like packing, like really stressing, like what do I used to take in this bag again, and like where do I keep my passport, and just like going to the airport, and there'd be like 6 other people in the whole airport, and that whole time was just such a mad time, and like took some readjusting, but I think it seems like we're nearing the end of it, or we're somewhat near the end of it. The chaos and the just disruption to just everything. But yeah, no one kind of seen that coming or expected that, I guess. Just total chaos for 2 years.
Are you like the rest of the two-wheeled world and just frothing out on Supercross? Like, are you sort of right in the thick of, like fan kind of fandom when it comes to that?
Yeah, I am. Well, to be honest, I'm more in it. I always have been since I was a kid or whatever, but it used to get like the 4-5 round 4-5, and then I'd kind of, kind of stop being so excited for a Sunday morning to watch the race, obviously, because it's like middle of the night, Saturday night over here. But I'm pretty still into it this year. Like we started a Since obviously been knocking around with Tommy and Ed a bit more, it's all kind of more, I don't know, it just seems to be a bit more irrelevant this year. And then we got like, we've had like a fantasy league going between and stuff like that. So then everyone's kind of, it's something to talk about on the Sunday morning, like, oh, you did shit, or what you think of doing this, or whatever. So the buzz is still kind of going this year, longer than usual, I'd say. But either way, I'm just a fan of any kind of racing on 2 wheels, especially off-road stuff. So I'm still big in the Supercross hype for this year.
What do you make? Bit of Billy Bolt bench racing. What do you make of it all so far?
It's pretty good this year. I think 450s at least. 250s is kind of Craig's running away with it, but he's pretty sick. I think I watched yesterday's just last night, and I was just sat thinking it'd be so sick if they sent Craig on a 250 to go and race the 450. To go and race the 450 East Coast races, because I think it would actually be pretty interesting to throw him in the mix on there and keep him going. But no, it's really good this year. I'm super happy that Anderson's coming back strong and he's battling up at the front again, because it's nice to just see like I'm such a fan of the personalities and stuff like that in the sport. I like to look at it quite deeply and root for the guys that kind of actually show the sport, because there's no reason not to. I don't see, like, again, I'm sure we're going to get into it with our stuff and the YouTube stuff and vlogs and whatever. Like I'm kind of a fan of the whole thing rather than just the race, and so I'm stoked Anderson's finding his feet again and got the ball running, and he's back on top, which is sick to see. And I think it's going good. Interesting to see what happens now. They head east, and if Cooper can find some form, because it's not going well for him. And also good just to see Eli kind of back going fast again after last year. He kind of just was nowhere. He looks really sick at the minute. So I think it's going to be good. I'm still locked in. I think I've got a good few rounds left anyway. I might even make it till the end of the championship being a super fan. We'll see how it goes, but it's good. Yeah,
it's crazy to think that it sort of seems like a 2-horse championship race after just 5 rounds, and it was supposed to be the gnarliest season ever.
But it was after like 2 or 3 rounds. It was like the tightest championship ever. It was 10 guys within 14 points or something like that. Or don't know the details, but yeah, for like 3 rounds, it was like the tightest championship ever. Then all of a sudden, just bam, a couple of takeouts, 2 DNFs, and then there's just two guys, but I think them two are definitely have found something at the minute. I don't know whether it's kind of just the mental approach or bike setup or what, but I think Anderson and Eli have got a bit of an advantage on everyone else at the minute. They've definitely got the speed on everybody, so we'll see if they can continue it.
Yeah, well, I think that it's like the two dudes that have changed teams. Like the two biggest team changes are the two dudes that have gone the best, which it's like there's just got to be something to the mentality of, like, I know Ando had a lot to prove. Like, he wanted to like really prove that he's still one of the dudes, and then you got Eli that's in that exact same boat. So it's like, I don't know, it sort of seems like mentality is like the separator, because like, dude, Ando going through those whoops, there was like a 5-lap period in the middle of that,
like 1 foot off
weekend,
every lap.
Bro, like, you gotta fucking want it. And then like he just big dicked Eli, really, because Eli would have been having those same moments for that same period of time before they backed it off. And that was literally just like a Mexican standoff. Like, who's gonna back out of hitting these whoops fast first? So to me, it just looks like full mentality. It's like those are the two dudes that just want it the most.
Yeah, I think so. I think the team changed for both of them. I think all the bikes are good. Do you know what I mean? Like they all spend millions developing the bikes. Like, obviously, some are better in certain areas than others, but at the end of the day, all the bikes are good. I think them guys have just got such a fresh setup and new faces around them, and just like both have a lot of points to prove. And like, going back to yesterday's race, it was pretty sick. Like 2 laps in a row, Anderson had like one foot off, and he's just not shutting off at all. I was just like, that is so sick. But I really do. I like Ray Anderson. When Anderson's on and his style is just like pretty loose, and he drags a leg a little bit in the corner, because he's like, now there's so much like hype and buzz around like Kenny and Chase's perfect style and feet up, and which is good. Like, don't get us wrong, like, I'm all for that as well. Like, there's nothing nicer than like keeping the feet on the pegs and standing up and sitting down at the last minute and just catching grip as you exit the corner. Like, that looks sick. But at the same time, when Anderson's like cutting through guys and he's just turning so tight, and then he's just dragging the foot all the way out the corner just because he's like hasn't had time to get the foot back on because he's just on the gas so early. Like, I'm a big fan of that. Like, I rate the looseness and just letting it hang out, and kind of just, Eli's the same as well. Like, when Eli gets really going, he starts to get a little bit ragged. That's when you know he's going, like, he's going for it, and just like, doesn't matter what else happens as long as the throttle's open. Like, the pair of them, when they really get on it, I rate both of their styles. That's kind of like the I don't know, I guess you can't call it goals, because at the end of the day, like, the perfect technique is like probably what you'd sought after, but at the same time, just that kind of looseness I do like, and I rate, and it's nice to see that they both don't want to shut off.
Dude, Eli's bike, now that he's got like the cable clutch going again too, like Eli's bike at Phoenix, when he was out front, you could just hear him just go, crack the throttle wide open, the clutch is all the way in, and he's just fucking feeding the clutch like the entire track. That thing would have been completely torched. Even through the whoops, you can hear like he's just fucking all the way on it, And like, you just sort of miss that a little bit with him on the Cowie last year, and like, I think you see him through like the whoops, like he's like pumping his legs into the whoops, even like it's just full send everywhere for those two boys. Yeah,
I like also, you see like Anderson hit the triple or hit a big jump, and he's like turning or just leaning so much, and his head's still like on like full extension of his neck, just because he's like got so much force going on out the corner, and he's like taking a breath, but obviously his head's already cranked over, so he's like mid-air, just like, right, and then lands and just goes again. It's so cool to see. Like, I would say them to kind of have quite a good bit of uniqueness to like when they're charging of the things they do, and obviously they both went at it pretty hard last night. It was cool to see.
Yeah, dude. No, that was probably one of the cooler main events that I've seen in a while. And then like just extra little icing on the cake for me was fucking Ando walking the track after the podium with his mechanics, walking the whoops, and being like, they're obviously trying to find something. And like, the best part of it is that people like in the media world or whatever love to talk shit on Ando.
Yeah, that he doesn't care, or he's too loose or whatever.
Yeah, and he's like, he doesn't give a fuck, he doesn't do this, he's fucking this, he's that, and then you just get him coming out this year, and he just does it in silence. He just doesn't post about the grind, he doesn't post about the training, he's just all about like, cool, buy my merch, my chick's hot as fuck, like, let's go, and goes out there, and it's so obvious that he's doing the work. And the thing is like, he's not the guy talking about how hard he's working. Now other people have to talk about how hard he's working. Yeah,
because the results are shown. And also I think the last 2 years, I think he's had some pretty good injuries over the last couple of years. And again, like you don't really hear about them much. He's not posting about them, and then obviously the media guys aren't really talking about them. It's just to like the uneducated guy. I guess it just seems like he's had a quiet 2 years, but really, he's had some pretty valid excuses at the same time. So now, like, it's all kind of coming to fruition, and it's like, the good times are rolling again. It's super, super good to see. And like I say, just people having fun with it. That's the best thing to see, because at the end of the day, we're just riding dirt bikes. That's what we're doing. So there's no reason not to have a good time about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, we got the sickest job in the world. So to be doing it and not having a good time is a waste of time, I think.
Yeah, and I think, like, I was right when we started talking about this, saying, like, lately you've got a little bit more into it. You've probably got a little bit more into it because everybody in this world fucking froths you at the moment. Like, you kind of have burst on the scene the last few years, and you've been, for me anyway, maybe the only guy that's crossed over this hard and like single-handedly made enduro cool as fuck. Like, everybody reposts Billy Bolt videos, everyone's tagging you, everyone's shouting you out, and it's like, that just hasn't really happened before in let's say like our world of like motocross and supercross. Like, there's just never been a dude that everybody froths in that scene.
Oh, that's nice to hear. And I think it's pretty mad when you think I've come from a trials world as well, not even just from an enduro world. Like, that's
you're a kook.
That's the fucked up part about it. Like, 5 years ago, I was like, a little bit over 5 years ago, I'm like still in my Lycra, like debating what I'm going to do with my life. Like, still heavily relying on like sponsors and my parents and everything to just go and do like the World Trials Championship. Thinking like, struggling to kind of see a future or like a way to make a living riding a trials bike. Like wondering what the fuck I'm going to do. Like, I don't financially see how I can do another year of like World Trials Championship. Obviously, I'd kind of exhausted every avenue of finances and stuff like that just to do that year, and then there was no kind of improved offer on the table for the next year. I'm like, what am I going to do? Thought about obviously enduro, and I always, to be honest, thought at some point I would end up doing enduro. I just would have liked to. My goal was to kind of try and get to the top level of trials and then change over, but obviously that just looked like it wasn't going to be possible anymore. So I ended up bought the bike. Was super dangerous on an enduro bike for a couple of years, and then a year or so, and kind of figured it out, started to go fast, and obviously really enjoyed what I was doing and stuff like that, and just kind of seeing just going on having fun. Really, I was really enjoying the motocross side of things and learning how to go fast and understanding that kind of thing. Got it for an enduro guy, or definitely for a trials guy, got that side of things figured out, relatively quickly. Obviously there's still a lot of things I could improve on, but kind of just, I'd say, crossed the bridge and just seemed to just get on with everybody, made a lot of like good friends in the moto world and enduro world, and everyone was just kind of seemed to just get on with everybody, got invited here, there and everywhere. That's how I kind of ended up crossing paths with Ed and Tommy, and that kind of gave us a bit more of a window to show like my riding and stuff in that world, and I think it all just kind of blew up from there, really.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. You're like the chick that got hot after high school.
That's a pretty good way to put it, really. Not so long ago, I was riding a seatless bike in my Lycra one-piece suit, just walking sections and trying to figure out how to ride over this rock and without putting my foot down. Now it's come to this.
Yeah, it's like, and you know, you get those chicks that were like not that hot in high school, and then they leave school, get super hot, but they've actually got a good personality because no one liked them.
Yeah, because they spent so long trying to be friends with everybody, so they know how to talk to people.
Oh, that's like literally your career.
I can't complain. It's
the way to be. It's the way to be.
It's, and like I say, it's just the way it played out as well. Like it's so it was so difficult to kind of to know what was going to happen as well. Like obviously a lot of trials guys come over to enduro and stuff like that, and they did pretty successful. But I think because I was such a fan of motocross and Supercross since I was such a young kid, like all kinds of racing. To be honest, I was like the first kind of bike racing I remember watching as a kid was like MotoGP. As my dad was pretty big. Well, my dad just loved motorbikes. Him and his mates were just fanatics of everything. But like the MotoGP would be on every weekend, and I remember like as like a, I don't even know how old, probably 3-4-year-old watching Rossi and his mad celebrations after the races and stuff like that. And that was like kind of the first real bike racing I remember. And then at any point, because like this was obviously like pre-YouTube when I was kind of like 3-4, so at any point there was like a Supercross on the TV or motocrosses on the TV, it would be like getting recorded, and I'd be watching that one over and over again and stuff like that. And I always, like when I was a real young kid, always wanted to be a motocross racer. When I was sort of like 4 or 5, I didn't even know what trials was. I was just only like kind of knew about racing motorbikes at that point, and wanted to be a motocross racer. I remember going on a family holiday to America when I was 4 or 5, and at that point in the UK you had to be 6 to race like a Pee-wee or to race an auto. There was no like Pee-wee racing. And I remember we went to like the local track just to watch. I don't even know what the name of the track was, some track in Florida that did like night racing. And there was like 4-year-olds racing Pee-wees there, and I remember I was so bummed that I wasn't allowed to race for like another year when I went back home. So yeah, at that point I still only had like a KTM 50 back home, and was just desperate to turn 6 so I could go and start racing. Which obviously came around eventually, did a couple of races. I didn't do particularly well. I think I just used to crash my brains out more than anything. I think I got a trophy from one of them, I still have it somewhere. But my parents didn't really like the kind of vibe in the motor paddock and the motor dads and stuff like that. I think they kind of just got quite a shock by the atmosphere around the paddock and stuff like that, and they were just not really stoked on that kind of setup. And I think one of the races I did, there was someone in my race got airlifted away. I think he hurt his neck. Again, this was like when I was 6. I don't really have much of a memory of it. I kind of just know how it went down. So they weren't super stoked on it and stuff like that. A few people got injured and didn't really like the vibe. So one of my dad's friends, his son at the time was already doing trials, and he was like, bring him along to watch a trial. It's much more friendly, all of that kind of stuff. So went along to watch, and I thought it looked pretty cool. Again, it wasn't like I was watching Ricky Carmichael at the time on the TV, like in the stadium. I'm like, it's not really the same. And then but the vibe was a lot better, a lot friendlier and stuff like that. So I ended up getting a trials bike and went along to my first trial. Sorry, I think I crashed just about every section, cried most of the day and hated it, to be honest. But then my dad was pretty persistent and took us back a few more times. And after a couple of weeks, I've made some actually pretty good friends that I'm like still really good friends with now and stuff like that. And after a couple of weeks, started to really like it, and it went from there, really, just from like the hobby guy that's just got like an old bike and borrowed some gear and still riding in wellies and stuff like that. It kind of progressed for a couple of years, and then started doing British Championship, then European Championship, then World Championship. Just kind of followed the natural progression really from there. But that's kind of how the motorcycling journey started, really. Again, like I say, when I was young, I had no real ambitions of being a trials rider. I was watching Travis and Ricky Carmichael kind of light it up in stadiums and stuff like that, and didn't really know what trials was, but it just the path that I got took down. And to be honest, like I say, I wouldn't change anything for the world. To be honest, I think it gave us such a good base, and I, like I say, I had some really good years and enjoyed my time riding trials, and took us to some pretty cool places, met some amazing people. And now with the world I'm in, I've kind of had the best of both worlds, really. I've come back to kind of what I wanted to do to start off with. So I had a pretty full circle, really, and it's kind of leads me back to where we are now.
Well, I mean, I think that every single kid should have a trials bike if you want to be good at motocross. Like the skills, the fundamental skills. Like Cody Webb's a good mate of mine, and I remember I don't know if you ever saw the edit. We shot this edit with him a few years ago called Donna Partying with him and Taylor Roberts, and it was like up in Lake Tahoe, and man, I was fucking blown away with what Cody Webb could do on a KTM 300. Like I'd just never really seen a dude do trials on a motocross bike, and he kind of had the same sort of background, like come from trials. And I remember, like, I think my uncle had a trials bike, but we never really rode it because we just thought it was super gay. And
that's just the rap it gets, like.
Yeah.
And like now being out of it and looking back in, I like super get why it has why it's so unappealing for people, which is obviously breaks my heart because I know how valuable it is and how such a and like even just how sick a community it is, and like this has so many positives, but I guess it's difficult to even know how to change that because it's just kind of what it is. I think maybe it's like back in the day, kind of like the 80s, 70s, 80s, it was kind of, well, at least in the UK, I don't know about elsewhere or even new, but it was like, you see pictures from like the World Championship and stuff back then, and it was like the thing to do, like they were riding with like the flat caps on and they had like fags in their mouth, and they'd be like 2,000 people along the side of this stream in the middle of nowhere just watching these guys ride up, and it was like looked like it almost had like,
it's hard enduro-y sort of.
It like reminisces the scenes you see from a hard enduro race now. But I guess these days you see it and it's just such kind of like a world away from from the motor world and stuff like that, and I guess that is why it's kind of so unappealing to a lot of people. But it's a shame it is like that because it does have so many values, and it is so beneficial to a lot of things, or just about anything. I would say you can get some value from riding a Charles bike.
Oh man, if I could go back and have my time again, as like I'm 33, froth riding my dirt bike, but I'm just so shit. Like I can't wheelie, I can't stoppy. Like there's so much stuff that I can't do that's just like fundamental base level stuff that a trials bike just gives you in spades. And I mean, you know, I have kids that want to ride. I'll definitely be getting them a trials bike. And, you know, after seeing some of the stuff and like you ride, you know, a lot of this hard enduro stuff, like they're just skills that me as a rider now, I could benefit from so much, but it's like that ship has sailed. You know, like you're not bridging that gap. Like it is so fundamental.
Yeah, it is things I think you benefit so much from learning as a kid. Like even if I do a training school, or I see like a guy who rides enduro or even trials, that's in like kind of middle-aged guy that's just getting into it and stuff. It's so hard to pick up then, or even if you get like a motor guy that's only rode motor, Tommy for example, put him on a trials, but he doesn't even entertain it because it is so different and like difficult to learn then. But I think as a kid it does benefit you so much, and that's again like I am pretty grateful and thankful for the path I ended up taking, because I think it just gives us such a good base. At the same time, I do think to go from trials into the motor world, there's a lot of things you kind of need to not forget, but you also need to relearn and stuff like that, which is why I think not too many of the trials guys can really pick up the speed side of things. You get to a certain level, but to go really fast and be in control on a motorbike, I think there's some things you need to forget. But as just in general, the base it gives you is just massive to kind of go which kind of whatever route you like, just as a throttle control, clutch control, weight in the foot pegs, and understanding about the balance of a bike, and even just kind of like the lean angles and how the tires work. Just a lot of the physics, I would say. You just pick up so much, and also reading the terrain and understanding ground and grip levels and stuff like that, because obviously you spend a lot of time walking the sections that you're going to ride, so you kind of study the ground and study stuff like that. I think that's one of the things which not too many people realize, but you get such a benefit from. Like, I'll come up to a rock section or a riverbed or a hill climb, whatever it might be, in a hard enduro race, and like instantly, well, not instantly, but I can process what's coming up pretty fast and kind of make decisions about where there's going to be traction or where there's going to be what to avoid and stuff like that, just pretty fast, just from, you know, like 15 years of walking sections. And
yeah, there's just like a database.
Yeah, I just kind of, you know, like, oh, that tree root looks slippy, or you'll see like, oh, there's water nearby, that's probably going to get slippy in a couple of laps time. And I think you just, yeah, like I say, get such a, like, without even thinking about it, just kind of like the cognitive process happens a lot faster, whereas I see other guys that obviously don't have that, and you see them get in trouble when it's not because they're not capable of riding over them obstacles, or not, they're not any less capable than what I am, but they just kind of make not as good decisions, I would say. No, it
makes total sense.
And even on a motor track, I would say, like a motocross track, not you do pick up things, and you see slick spots, or you kind of have a good understanding of how lines develop, and I think that coupled in with, obviously the enduro side of things and the line choice from like the classic enduro and stuff like that I've done, I think has a good advantage when you come on a motocross track too.
Yeah, and you know what else that I think comes into play as well is just the attitude. Because how many times can you just not get your fucking bike up some rocks and you just want to throw the thing down the hill, and just like to keep your composure? Because we've started doing this. We do this. It's a Transmoto. It's like a teams race. It's sort of like, it's an enduro, but they make it pretty hard, and they always make you go through the shit, always make you go through shitty hills, and a lot of times they're like, as the day goes on, they're just having to cut sections out because like punters just can't get up them. And man, it's just a mental fucking grind. And like, I'm not used to it when you come from, you do your 4-8 lap races or whatever it is on the day, and then you come back in the pits and your dad does all your shit for you, and it's like, it's pretty cushy really. But the trials stuff, and then to transfer that into hard enduro, just to like keep that mental composure and be creative in the heat of the moment, and not just crack a fucking hissy fit essentially.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably one of the from like a racing perspective and results wise and stuff, that's probably one of the main things that I had to do changing over. Like, I struggled a lot in the early days with just, losing my temper at myself or whatever. Like, so the bike might not have been quite perfect or whatever, but at the end of the day, like, fuck, there's not going to be any bike that's perfect to ride over that many different kinds of terrain or whatever. But I'd be struggling on like the smallest, or I'd make a fuck up on the smallest little shitty thing, which I know I was capable of doing, and it would just, pisses off to the point where I'd just blow my lid, and then that would be it. The lip would be, well, not the lip, not that I would ever be sulking to the point like where I wasn't going to finish, but I'd just, obviously the chance of a good result was gone because I'd spent 5 minutes punching myself in the head rather than just, trying to forget about it. But yeah, like, just the fact knowing what, like, whatever shit situation, and you've still got to get to the top of this hill, or in some races, like the real gnarly ones, like, you've got to get to the top of this mountain no matter what. Like, that's where the track goes. If you don't get to the top, like, you ain't getting back to the finish line, so you ain't getting in the van to get back to the hotel. Like, it's like, camp out here, I'll get to the top of this hill. Like, and it gets to the point, and it's not as bad. I don't know whether it's just maybe it's because I've improved, or they have realized that, like, for this to be a race, a legitimate, like, championship or whatever, like, them situations,
you just can't, like, cook everyone.
I understand the hobby guy that just wants to go and push himself to the limit, ride the gnarliest race ever. Like, for them to be in that position is it's probably what they want to experience. But like, when we're battling at times, like, 4 guys together up mountain for 5 hours, like, to be in like a life or death situation gets pretty severe. So they're kind of toning it down a little bit. Like, it's still, don't get us wrong, like, there's still times you on like ledges and cliff edges going, fuck me, like, if I slip here, that's not going to end well. But yeah, they're kind of toning it down a little bit. Then in my first couple of years, like, there was times when I just genuinely thought, like, I'm never getting up this hill. Like, I've been pushing for like 20 minutes. Like, what am I doing? There's nowhere near. And then again, you just keep going and going, and you try and find another line, like a little bit off the track, and eventually, like an hour later, you've made it to the top of this hill, and you're just like, wow, this is not right.
Man, I've had a couple of times in some of the Transmoto races where like you've just hit a group and it's just one line, everyone's single filed, and then like you've hit someone's back tire by like just a fucking smidge, and then you're off down into this gully and it's bull dust and you can't get up, and like it's a 20-minute lap time that you've spent 45 minutes stuck in the bottom of a hill. No one's coming to get you. It's just the most demoralising shit.
My first Romaniacs. Romania is for like those that aren't kind of in the know of the sport, I would say by far the hardest race, kind of most gnarly race. The terrain, like it's 5 days of just the most mental fucking mountains you could ever imagine. Like the hills, I've never experienced the hills anywhere near as long as what they are there. I don't know how they make hills that just go on for so long. But anyway, my first year was when I was still kind of privateer, just winging it. I had a few good people helping us, don't get us wrong, but I was still just winging it on the bike at Bow and just totally like YOLOing it, and didn't have a clue what I was doing, didn't have a clue what to expect. I'd done Erzberg earlier that year and it came 5th, starting from the second row, so I was like pretty confident, like thinking, I've got this hard enduro shit figured out, like it can't be that difficult. I've just come 5th, starting from the second row, like I had reasonable levels of confidence, then went into this race, which was like real mountains. The first time I'd ever rid in the mountains, like properly, in just the first day, just blew my mind down. Just like, I got to the service point, which is about halfway. I think it took like 4 hours to get there. And I'm just like, said to my dad and the guys, I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, you can't ride bikes for this long. And then anyway, that afternoon, I'd had a few crashes and I was riding a bit shitty, like kind of just survival mode. Ended up crashing off the track. It was on, not even on a particularly difficult section. There was like a fallen down tree which I'd hit and it kicked us a little bit. Ended up going off the track, and like pretty like not far off the main line, but like in like loose shaly rocks. Thinking like, oh, this isn't ideal. So I tried to kind of traverse across the hill and kind of make my way back onto the main line, and then these rocks just set off like an avalanche and just slid for probably like 50 meters, just like in this rock avalanche, just like, whoa, and then eventually stopped, and I'm like now like 50 meters down from the track, thinking there's no chance I'm getting back up there, so I'll head down. And it went into like a bit of a stream and followed it all the way down. I'm like, just at this point not even worried about finding the track anymore. Just wanted like a road or some form of life. Heading down, it turned into a bit of a stream, got quite steep in a few sections, like had to carry my bike down a few of the bits, and then eventually gets to the bottom and it's just a lake, nothing else. Like a cliff, a straight up probably 20 meter cliff on the left side, and then the right side was like a bank but the same shale which I just kind of slid down. So I was just like, I'm fucked. I'm literally like at this lake, didn't have a clue where to go, like stuck. Called the rescue number, like I've gone off the track here. Like you have like 2 GPSs which kind of tell you where the track goes, so I give them my coordinates or whatever. Luckily I had phone signal and like it wasn't raining and it was like pretty good weather, so I was never like really in danger. But as like a young kid, like my first day kind of out there in the mountains, just like, what the fuck, I'm stuck. Eventually like the one of the guys, the organizers, had seen like where the rocks had slid, the rock avalanche had been, so he kind of knew where I was, and he left his bike there and walked down to me, and then he found us, and then my dad and my mechanic had set off from the nearest road, which was about 2 k's. They'd kind of like traversed across by the waterline of the lake, and we all kind of met. This was about 6 hours later after I'd called for help. So I'd just been laid there, wrapped in my emergency blanket, just kind of like trying to sleep or trying to just like pass the time away. They'd arrived like 6 hours later and were just kind of like carried my bike across the side of this lake back to the van. And that was my first day of, I'd say like a real hard enduro, like the gnarly ones. That was my first day. Got back to the paddock at like 10:30, woke up at 4 the next morning and got made. Well, I didn't get made, but I wanted to start the next day. I thought, if this is what I want to do, I've got to get every ounce of experience I can from this week that I'm here. Obviously, like a DNF the first day, so you get one chance of a DNF and you can start the next day, and if you DNF again, you can't continue. So I thought I need to get every if this is what I want to do and what I want to be successful at, I need to get every ounce of experience I can from this week. So woke up at 4 the next morning and set off into the mountains again for another day of struggle.
Fuck, that is too much, Billy.
But yeah, for like the first day, it was an eye opener, that's for sure. I'm just like, well, this is a different world to the trials world, put it that way.
Oh, and like I just can't even imagine the head noise that you would have been dealing with.
It was weird. It went just before it all happened. I was obviously like my usual younger self, just full of rage and just so angry at myself for riding so shit. And then 15 minutes later, you realize I'm in a pretty gnarly situation now. Like, this is dangerous. Like, I'm stuck in like in the middle of nowhere. Literally, a lake was in front of us. And at one point, they were trying to find like a boat to come and rescue us on, because they thought that was going to be the easiest method. Just set off this boat across from the other side of the lake, because I could get down to the shore. But obviously, then there was no way. It was like cliffs either side if I got down to the shore. So that was talk of, and like I say, just the most bizarre feelings ever. And you just like, this is a gnarly world that I'm in now. Like, I've got to man up, and that's it. That is still the race I struggle with. The last 2 years I've been there, I've made big improvements, and I've actually fourth's my best result there, but I've won individual days and I've won stages and stuff like that, and like made big improvements riding like in the mountains and stuff like that the last couple of years. But it's took a lot of work. Like, I spent quite a bit of time in Italy at the beginning of last year just riding mountains and trying to harden up, because coming from the city in the UK, we don't have any mountains to ride in, and it's definitely a different world to what I was used to.
What's the process of getting better at that shit?
It's hard work. Like, for me, and especially like the speeds that and the intensity we're riding at in them situations as well. Like, we'll be like switchbacking, like zigzagging up a mountainside, like literally as hard as you can, as fast as possible, like not even taking a second every time we do like a pivot turn. Just but I think just being in there, like, it's difficult to comprehend kind of how steep stuff is. So just being amongst being in the mountains and riding the super steep kind of gnarly terrain, kind of long days. It's difficult. In England and in the UK, we don't really have any big areas which is like legally allowed to ride bikes in. So everywhere you go to train, for some races it's really good. You have to make like a short lap and just pound out like an hour moto or something like that, which is super intense. In that, so for some areas really good, but for just the long kind of 6-7 hour days of shit, just grinding it out, it's so difficult to replicate. So just being out in places where you, like I say, some uphills can be like 30 minutes 40 minutes long, just the same uphill. So kind of just being in that situation, and I spent quite a bit of time with Manny, who was obviously second in the championship, who I battled with last year. He's probably the best at riding that kind of stuff. He's from Germany, like lives in the mountains, obviously spend all his life kind of in there, and we just guard, and just long days we take like some saws or whatever, just to, not that we cut down trees or destroy nature or anything, but it's just often handy to have them there. But yeah, just like I say, making new tracks, and so you spend quite a bit of time like walking up the hills and moving trees and like moving rocks to kind of make new passes and open stuff up, and like before you know it, you've spent kind of 8-9 hours in your gear, in your boots and your knee braces, between kind of riding and opening trails and moving rocks. And it's just, like I said, just the length of time, and just spending a lot of time grinding away, which for them kind of races is what you need to do. And like, I come back now and I did like a British Extreme Championship race yesterday, which was 2.5 hours, and it's like sometimes in like the big races you do 2.5 hours and you haven't even reached a tank point or a checkpoint, or you haven't even seen anybody yet in the morning. You like set off at 6:30 and you get to 9 and it's the first time you've seen anybody else out on the track, or you've got to a checkpoint or whatever. It's like, it's crazy. It's difficult to prepare, or even like there's not anything anyone could have told us that would have prepared me mentally for what them races, or even physically. Like, there's nothing anyone could have said that would have prepared us for what I was going to encounter at them races. It's just like so different to anything I'd ever experienced. But it kind of, from that first day, like where I was stuck, and that whole first year I was pretty shit and struggled so bad. Like the hills were just kind of destroying us. I really, like, it proper lit the fire to kind of figure it out and work out, because obviously like the shorter races, like your Erzberg, stuff like that, where it's all kind of in a small area and just super technical stuff like that. I had that figured out from the beginning, but it was always the longer races, the gnarly grinds, what I really wanted, what I struggled at, and what I've had to work hard on.
It's almost like ultra marathon running in a way, because it's like you've got the marathon stuff, like, you know, the Boston Marathon or whatever. You got your 42Ks and you can train for it every day. You've got a road, you've got your splits on your Garmin, and you can build up to it. There's kind of like, there's a way to prepare almost. But then you go to like those ultra where you're doing like 100 milers or whatever, and it's through the night and through the terrain. It almost just comes down to like, you can't really train for it. You can't really practice for it. You've just got to be a fucking psycho on the day.
Yeah. No, it's very true. Like I say, you can't go and ride a bike for 7 hours every day to train for a race. Like, it's just physically impossible. You'd be going to be smoked after like 1 week of that kind of training program. But I think you just need to kind of, everyone's different as well. Like, you got to find what you find most beneficial and go with that. Like, I find I get a lot from like riding motocross and stuff like that, between motocross and kind of the, like I was saying, the long extreme like days, just kind of riding the hills, riding extreme kind of stuff, as obviously gives you like the grind and riding a hill which would be probably too hard to race up, but at the same time you're just pushing your bike up is just getting your body into like a routine of pushing and working on the muscles, because like to go into a gym and replicate pushing a dirt bike up a hill is just kind of physically impossible. Sometimes you're pushing it just using the handlebars, sometimes you're having to lift the back wheel up, you know. It's so just to do that, and then a mix between that and like riding motocross, which I think is also massively beneficial, not just because you learn how to go faster, but just in general. You think on a 7-hour day, how many corners are you going to ride around? Like, whether they be flat, whether there be a rut there, whether they even sometimes on like you're riding like real like fresh forest kind of loam, like real nice terrain, whatever it might be, you're going to ride around probably thousands of corners in a day. If you're like efficiently riding around every single corner, you're saving, I don't know, you might save a second, you might save 2 seconds in some corners if you really get it efficiently. You brake early, you're smooth, you're efficiently riding around, you're saving time, times that by the however many 100 or however many 1,000 corners you're going to do in a day, which is not a lot, but at the end of the day, it's probably a decent amount of time. You're efficiently riding around it, so you're saving energy. You're not being like aggressive on the brakes. You're not wearing your tires out, which again, one corner doesn't make a difference, but at the end of a 6-hour day, it's probably going to add up. So I find like to learn how to kind of ride efficiently, in control, like smoothly around the motocross track replicates in so many different areas. Even kind of, I find you coming off like a fast section of the track into like an uphill or whatever, just getting used to being sat down riding through rough stuff on motocross track, or like seat bounce in the motocross jump, just staying sat in the seat and letting the bike hit something. Obviously the bikes are set up completely different, and it's not 100% like replicatable, but at the same time you're just used to kind of letting the bike move underneath you, letting it hit some rough stuff, sitting down off something, it's not going to kick you over the handlebar, stuff like that. There's just so many different areas which I just think you become so efficient, and at the end of the day adds up to seconds and even minutes on a long day. So for me, it's just like in terms of training, it's kind of a cross between the two, like the super long grinding out days and then a couple of days at the motocross track a week. And I think it's a pretty good mix for me as well. It keeps it pretty fresh. Like if I only rode extreme enduro and only pushed up hills all day, I'd get pretty burned out on that as well. Like it's fresh to go ride moto, do a couple of motos fresh, do a couple of motos and push and try and get faster, then, you know, try and learn how to whip for a little bit more and get super dangerous and sketchy until the mechanics say, okay, so that's enough, get off the track now, you're getting far too dangerous. So it just keeps it fresh, and at the same time, like, we're pretty lucky, I think, with our sport that you can kind of do anything and it's going to be like beneficial.
Everything counts.
Yeah, anything is going to be beneficial in one way, shape or form. Like, even still, I don't ride a trials bike too much anymore, but a day on a trials bike is also quite good just to kind of sharpen up on the balance and the real precise kind of things. But yeah, like, pretty much anything, it is actually beneficial in one way, shape or form.
We need a Lycra edit.
Yeah, I do. Husky don't make a trials bike, so it's I can't really post anything of riding a trials bike anymore. But to be honest, my trials bike days kind of consist of just doing jumps these days now. Anyway, I last for about an hour doing something serious, and then we just go and find. Because on a trials bike, with not having a seat, like, you can get some pretty gnarly scrubs on the go, just kind of leaning it over ridiculous amounts, and just that's about all it gets. That's about all I'm good for on a trials bike now.
So you got a crazy story of when you did decide to transition into the enduro world. You basically, like you said, you went to, was Erzberg kind of like your first big race that you went to? And then you were just like literally a nobody at that race, and then started off row 2 and then got 5th. Like, and then what happened after that was even fucking crazier.
Yeah, I actually did another race in France called Alès Trem, which was in the January of that year. So I bought my enduro bike in December of 2015. Was it 15? Yeah, December of 2015. I just went to the shop, borrowed the money off my mum, went and bought a KTM from the shop. And at the time, I had a few people. I had Julian Stevens, who was working with Johnny Walker quite a bit at the time. He's worked with quite a few people in the past, like David and I, Teddy Bazuzia, like a lot of good guys. And he was kind of one of the guys who was kind of pushing us, like, there's probably a career in extreme enduro for you. Like, he sees a lot of good and stuff like that. So he was kind of advising. And then had a couple of other people who he kind of brought in to kind of help and assist and stuff like that. So we actually went and did a race in France in January. But you had to be road legal, and at that time I could only ride a 125 legally on the road. So I actually we borrowed a 125. Looking back, it was just the stupidest idea ever. We borrowed a 125, but I'm like, 90 kgs, 94 kgs, 95 kgs on this 125. Like, again, didn't really know what we were doing. Like, we had hard tires on and pretty hard mousses riding a 125. Like, that was just hell. That day took us 9.5 hours to finish, you know. It's just, I think I got 7th in the end. And it was a super, super tough race. It was meant to be 4 laps, but they cut it down to 3 because I think Johnny won and it took him like 8 hours. Anyway, just pretty much died. Wasn't prepared, didn't know what I was doing anyway. So went back home, trained hard, as hard as I could, kind of tried to figure out, watched obviously every video I possibly could of Erzberg. That was like going to be the goal. Like, that was the next step.
People spend like their summer or whatever like trying to learn video editing off YouTube, and you're trying to learn Erzberg.
Yeah, I'm like watching every single video of Erzberg from every year, like figuring it out. But that was like next on the calendar, like, we're going to go to Erzberg. We had a couple of problems like in the like few weeks before with a couple of sponsors and stuff like that. Ended up the guy who was gonna provide the bike couldn't make it anymore or whatever. So in the end I had to use Julian's own bike, which was like 3 years old. So that got like, had to have a full revamp like the day before we left. It was like the most last minute job just to get there. But he'd actually had some quite good connections obviously with the KTM factory guys, because obviously of his work with Johnny, and he'd worked for the factory as a mechanic before and stuff like that. So I had quite a good like foot in there. And then at the time Johnny Walker was injured, so there was a space in the truck, and they were like, oh, we don't mind, you can come and work out the truck, whatever. And like, they'd had like a poster made, and I just remember like everybody was coming up, just like it was like Taddy Bazuzia, Cody Webb was there for KTM at the time, and then everyone's just like staring at the poster like who the fuck is this, Billy Bull? Like literally nobody had a single clue who I was. It was brilliant. But like, just this kid, been riding enduro bike a couple of months, and I'm just like the most stoked kid ever. Like, my bike's in the truck of like the Rebel KTM truck. I'm just like, what is going on? I'm at this gigantic iron mine in Austria, like trying to walk the track. And I did like that whole week. I worked so hard to try and like walk the track and figure it out. And like Erzberg's a bit strange. It's quite, everyone's kind of like super secretive about where they're going to walk and stuff like that. And the organizers are pretty secretive about marking the track out. Like, they try and leave the track as late as possible to put the arrows in, so you don't know exactly where it goes. So like, everybody's like super stingy all week. And like, whenever you see a hire car leave the car park, you're like, quick, get in the car and follow them, because like access into the mine and stuff like that, there's like boom gates and stuff like that, which no one can quite figure out how they open or what they open. So if you can follow somebody in, it's worth it. So I remember like the whole week I'm like super alert, super active. Like, whenever I seen Graham or someone like that leaving, I'm just like running over to him. Can I come with you? Like, just literally doing everything I can to figure it out. And yeah, qualified the first day, I think like 20th, so that's comfortably like on the front row, no problems, and I was pretty comfortable, pretty confident. I actually wasn't even going to take the second day's qualifying run, but in the end we said, the KTM boss said, no, everyone in the truck has to do the second day for like Mark Mead, so it looks good for the company or whatever. And so which I get, which makes sense, but at that point the track gets so rough the second day for qualifying, like it's unheard of that anyone goes faster. So like I set off, I hit this puddle of water which just completely submerged me and everything. My bike ended up dying. I had to take my air filter out, squeeze it, and then to get the bike to start again. So like my time was gone. I'm just drenched, dripping head to toe, cruise to the top. Like, that time was like 2 minutes slower because I had to take it, but still not really worried, because no one ever goes faster. But because it had rained, which is obviously what made that puddle, the track was a lot grippier. And then get the results come through like 9 that night, and they're like,
they pushed you off.
Barely 52nd, and I'm just like, oh, that's not good. So like, yeah, but now since then, every year the second day has been faster. That was like the start of the trend where the second day gets faster for some reason. But at the time, for some reason, which looking back now, I feel like that should have stressed us out, knowing how I was back then so bad. I was just like, it's fine. Like, I wasn't remotely worried. I remember like getting the news just before I was about to go to bed, and I was just like, it's fine, I'll be okay. I was like not phased at all, which looking back is pretty mad. So yeah, started from the second row and just went like an absolute madman for like the first 15 minutes. I'd love to have had a GoPro, and I was just like smashing people out the way, left, right and center. Like, it was just, that day was just, I just, for some reason, it was like, right, this is it. This is like the day to show.
Felt like your shot.
Yeah, it was kind of like an audition, I guess, in a way. Like, this is it. Just the factory's obviously watching. I've been under the truck. I'm like having dinner with like the bosses of KTM and Husky and all of that kind of stuff. Like, doing my best to like come across like a nice, presentable young lad. Like, they know, like I'm worth investing in or whatever. And I just, I was just like on a mission from the start. Smashing people out the way. Like, I need to get in, like just taking literally no prisoners. And it was going really good. I got, obviously from 50th into like 20th, 10th, whatever. Got into about 5th. And then I was in 4th, and then my chain came off and wrapped around the front sprocket and got stuck. And like, I was wounded. I was like in 4th, making good ground to catch. I think Graham won it that year by a mile. And then I think it was Alfredo Gomez and Cody Webb 2nd and 3rd. And I was like making ground, catching them. Like, you never know. I think probably would have just come short of the podium. I would have been tight for 3rd. But yeah, my chain came off and like completely wrapped around the front sprocket. Like, I've got like whatever I could find around the mine, trying to free it off. Got like crowbars in there, whatever else. And then was completely stuck. And if I'd have known what I know now, like I was actually like just about literally 50 meters away from where the service point was earlier in the race, but the vans have to stay there the whole race. I was literally a 2-minute run from like the mechanics, but in the end, Dad was like fucking around for ages. trying to free it off, and then like everyone was like watching on the live stream because it wasn't even on a difficult section, so there was like no TV cameras, nothing. In the end, news had got through, and then one of the mechanics was looking for us, and luckily he bought the tools to take the swinging arm out. I had to do it all myself because it was no help zone, so I like got the swinging arm out. I'm so pumped up at this point, like my arms are going mad. I've got like, I had some tools with this, but obviously not to do that, so I've got like my bum bag spread out everywhere. I'm so pumped up. It's like 3/4 of the way through the race anyway, like just panicking so bad because everyone was coming past us and like just fucking knocking my bike as they rode past, and I think I dropped back to ninth. Anyway, got the chain free swinging on back in, set off again. There was two difficult sections left. There was Dynamite and Lazy Noon. And yeah, it's just started passing a few people. I think I'd passed 2 people in Dynamite, and then Taddy, Wade. Everyone was stuck on Lazy Noon pretty much, and they're like only the first quarter of Erzberg you're allowed help, and then after you get to like the hard part of the race, it's no help zone. So, but obviously, it's like the most hyped race all year. There's TV cameras everywhere, helicopters everywhere. So there's just like so many people at the top of this hill, and like 3 guys stuck halfway on, like they'd give up trying because they didn't think it was possible. And they're like busy just like digging themselves, trying to get to hard ground on this super shaly hill. And I almost got it on the first go. So I was like, I had another pretty shitty attempt. And then I'm like, all right, lined up for the third go, got super squirrely at the bottom, ended up going completely the wrong side, like off the main line up to the left-hand side, and there's videos somewhere of like me on Lazy, and I'm just like left, right, all over the place, and just keep it lit all the way to the top of this hill and get out the top and pass back into 5th. And that was it really. It's like pretty much a flat run to the finish, and I was just the most whirlwind of emotions for a couple hours, and that was it really. That was like when I kind of arrived, and it all spiraled out of control from there. Really got a little bit of help from KTM for the rest of that year, and then signed for Husky at the end of that year to start from 2017. But from 5 months into riding an enduro bike, that was pretty mental. That
is probably one of the gnarliest moto stories ever, of a dude just coming from nowhere to being instantly one of the best dudes in the world.
Yeah, it was so weird. Like, it kind of all just felt right. Like at that time as well, before I went to Romaniacs, this is like, it all went well. Erzberg went well, and then I was doing like the British Sprint Enduro Championship, like the classic enduro, and obviously I wasn't that good at it, but I was like progressing really fastly, and it all just kind of, I felt like, I felt like I was the boy, to be honest. I was like, I've got this figured out, like this is the shit, like this is what I was meant to be doing, like this is all good. And then it was all going well. Then I went to Romaniacs and realized, okay, these guys are fucking a lot gnarlier. Then I thought, like, I need to man up before I can get anywhere near these guys. So that was kind of a culture shock. But to be honest, the Romaniacs, the prologue, which is like the first day of racing, which is in the city, is like a super mental contraption. They build all sorts of crazy obstacles and stuff like that, like basically racing like an arena trial section in the city. Yeah. And there was a press day the day before, and like not many people could barely even get around the track. Everyone's getting stuck everywhere. Then I was just like, thought this was brilliant. There's cameras on us all over the place. I'm like wheeling everywhere. There's a video, I think there's probably like 12, 13 logs in a row in like a balance beam to go over them, but I was just like missing the balance beam and just like wheel tapping. I wheel tapped the whole way through, and that video it still pops up every now and again now. That's from 2016, and I still get tagged in it like all over the place. So that kind of press day was probably, and I've spoke to like the Husky team manager and stuff since, and he's like, no, like after Erzberg, we were pretty much decided we were going to sign you. Then that press day was like, that was it, the deal was done. So thankfully the press day went well, and then in the prologue, I think I finished 4th. I was second for most of it, but I just died. Like at this time as well, I had no fitness whatsoever. Like I was trying to figure out what to do, but it was just still also new. Like every race, I would just die of like fitness cramps, everything like that. So, he said the press day was when he sealed the deal, and I guess it's thanks to that video of his wheeling through the logs. So if any kids are out there watching, anytime there's a chance to show off, just go and show off as much as you possibly can, because it definitely helped me.
Dude, it's so crazy. Like, so you have just basically no money, no job.
Yeah, nothing. I was literally, I had a sponsor, like a long-term sponsor, and I was a little kid who I'd go and work at for like 2-3 days a week. Yeah. Literally just get enough money in cash to just put some. I had a little van. Because I was so young, I couldn't get any insurance on a van, like a normal van. So I had to have this, like, it's a Citroen Berlingo with like windows all the way through. It's like a disabled van. That's literally what it is, like what you'd wheel a wheelchair into the back of. So I'm driving around in this. I used to have to fold the front seat down and strap the forks down. So like, because the handlebar height was too hard to fit in the roof. And then the back wheel used to have to go into the passenger seat. So I'm driving around in this, like literally getting like enough money to survive. I'd work maybe like the Monday or the Tuesday, just doing labor jobs, literally whatever they'd want us to do, just to get enough money to go and ride for the rest of the week. And then I'd be like, yeah, whatever, like taking tires out the bin from like the Damo's Graham's mechanics workshop and whatever else he was throwing out. I'd be like, I can have this, and just fully scrounging it to get by. Yeah, like I say, I'd borrowed the money off my mum to get the bike, and kind of just my parents would give everything to kind of get us to where I was, which, you know, I'm always thankful for. But they had nothing left. They were kind of still helping us wherever they could, or if there were some flights or whatever, and just kind of beg, stealing and borrowing off everybody, relying on sponsors for that year. But kind of by the midpoint of that year, it was kind of started to get a little bit of help for KTM for parts and bikes and stuff like that for the second half of the year, and it was kind of looking like I was going to get the factory ride for the year after. But yeah, literally from a year of just full beg, steal, borrow, whatever, just getting by to riding for the factory team.
And what was it like to sign that contract and see the dollar sign? Like, I'm sure it's gotten bigger since then, but to just see some zeros on a contract,
it was mad. Like,
team.
To be honest, it was, looking back, I feel like they definitely had a good deal for the first couple of years. Like they weren't. They could have definitely been a little bit more generous, but no, it was mad. Like, it was like one of the proudest moments of my career, I would say, just to finally, you know, be able to call yourself like a factory rider, a professional rider, is like what I'd wanted since forever. Like, I'd never ever at any point in my life thought I was going to be anything else. Like, that's literally all I ever wanted to do since I was a kid. That's all I could remember. I used to play like every other sport when I was in school. I was on every team, but at the end of the day, like, I was going to be a motorbike rider no matter what. And like, I was not, despite like my dad would constantly just be like, this isn't happening forever, like, you're going to be having a job soon because we can't afford to do this anymore. Like, he was like the most down to earth parent ever. Like, he never once kind of blew smoke up my arse or like said, like, he was like the complete opposite. I'm like, no, it's fine. I'll sort it out. I'll be alright. I'm going to be a professional rider. Don't worry. And he was like, no, you're fucking getting a job soon, son, because this isn't lasting forever. Like, you'll be having a job before long. And like, to finally just know, like, all right, like, now I'm not relying on anybody else to go and ride my bike anymore. And like, and this is the difference from being like literally reusing every part to its with an inch of its life to take a broken part or whatever. Then just like the fact, I remember my first ever factory bike came. I was just like a practice bike came in like the December time. I was actually injured. I couldn't ride it till the January, and it was January in the UK. Like, I went and rode in just this field, which was about an hour from my house, just shithole, like an absolute mud fest. But I just wanted to ride my new bike. And I'm literally just like riding around this absolute swamp of a field, and it's at like a farm, a local farm, and I washed it there. I washed it afterwards with the jet wash there, and it's obviously like a big agricultural jet wash. It blew the rear fender sticker clean off, and I'm like, oh shit! I don't know if I need to keep that. So like, I remember I've still got it. It's in under like the sun visor of my van. I thought I better keep this sticker just in case they need to put it on for like the first race. And looking back, I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, if we need these new stickers every time I ride the bike, if that's what's necessary. You know what I mean? Like the difference of just parts and possibilities of, you know, you want this, you want lower handlebars, you want higher foot pegs, you want a higher seat, you want to change, you know, you want a shorter shock, you want a longer foot, like just the amount of resources that you have, literally just like that, like within the change from end of December to beginning of January, it's just like the world kind of just, I just unlocked a new world. I'm just like, wow, we're here now. It was,
and then like just the personal like validation, I guess, you know, because you sort of like, I can relate in a way. Like I always just told my parents the same thing, like, yeah, you got to get a job, you got to get a job, you got to get a job. And I was like, I'm not getting a fucking job. I'll work my ass off, but I ain't getting a fucking job. And, you know, like for years and years and years, like for me anyway, like there's so many times I just felt like a fucking loser. And, you know, you'd see people getting houses and all that sort of shit. And like, you're just hanging on to this dream of, you know, for me, like for the longest time, it was the filmmaking side of things. And then kind of got unlucky and then got lucky again. Like my unluckiness kind of turned into luck with starting the podcast. But it was just like, I remember feeling like, fuck, this actually finally worked. Like I finally have something that like someone can't take away from me.
Yeah, I think mine was just kind of the feeling like I'm on my own. I can survive on my own now more than anything. Yeah. And like I say, don't get us wrong, like the first contracts, like I couldn't have went and buy a house or anything like that. But it was at the same time like, all right, this is where my bikes are coming from. Like here's my vehicle. I'm like, the rest is on me now. I'm paying for my flights to go to every races. Like it was just like, yeah, well, this is, and it meant like, it took us a while to switch like the mentality from like surviving, doing everything to get to the race to like, okay, at first, and my results weren't particularly great in the first year, but when you think, looking back, it's still like my second year in the sport, so like realistically they didn't need to, like they weren't meant to be great. And I'm like pretty thankful, and I was actually speaking to like a few of the Husky bosses the other day, and like I'm like, what I don't know what you were thinking, like sticking by me, looking at the results wise, and they were all like, nah, like we knew like eventually it was going to come, but it was all just kind of about like my mindset switching from surviving and doing whatever you need to do to get to the race to like, okay, what do I need to improve to get better? And like that was then the main focus, and it's such a difficult switch to do, and like you've almost got to become like a little bit selfish or start to like think about yourself and then think, okay, where do I need to be better? Like and go from like, yeah, do whatever you can to be like, save as much money as possible to spend to go to the races, like skimp out on whatever you can, like dodge paying for this, wherever you can. Okay, now I need to pay for everything, like what I need to be better, whether it be, you know, recovering, go and having a scan if you're injured, whatever, stuff like that. Okay, like I'm injured. I remember I had problems with my shoulders, both shoulders, that first year I rode, just from crashing so much, hitting so many trees. Literally just blew both AC joints. That first year I hit that many trees, and like that, I remember like the first few months of riding for Husky, I was like, okay, well, these need to get fixed. No one was really, I didn't really have any answers. Okay, I got to go and get a scan on these two. And I'm like, ooh, that's how much these cost. And I'm just like, but at the same time, it's like all of it just was part of like the switch of like, okay, now the position I'm in, I need to be put my best foot forward every time I race. And then that's what's going to get results. That's what's going to get re-signed for the next year. And that's how it's all going to roll. And it's, like I say, it's a strange switch to do when you've spent your whole life surviving and just dreaming of being in that position. Yeah, it's such a strange switch to make, but eventually we got there. And like I say, by probably the end of 2017, my first year of Husky, I didn't have any particularly good results. I didn't win any races. I got one podium that year, but by the end of the year, I felt like, okay, I'm starting to challenge these guys, and you learn so much. Like I remember my first ever suspension test, the WP mechanic's like, what do you want? And I'm just, I don't know. I don't really like how this bike feels. Like I felt more comfortable on my stock old bike, but I don't really know what I want. And obviously it was like the first time we'd even met. So like we didn't have much of a relationship anyway. Yeah. Whereas like now we're just like got each other, how each other talks in like the language, like our own language down to a T, and like he kind of knows and I kind of know what he's thinking and stuff like that. But like the first test, and I don't know, like didn't even have a clue what you could change. Like you can do. I usually just do this with the clickers, like and whatever. Like now you can change shims, you can change oil level, you can change springs, like the whole world. Just understanding that literally the whole world is available at your disposal is a weird feeling, but it's also like the dream for like any kid, and was my dream anyway. Like whenever I was a kid, even in school, like teachers like, you need to write a CV, or you need to decide, you need to start looking at what unis you want to apply to. And I'm not going to university. Like I'm going to ride the World Trials Championship, and then we'll see from there. Like I'd pretty much my last year of school managed to kind of accumulate just about enough money to do the World Trials Championship that year from sponsors and people helping or whatever. So like, I'm not applying for no universities. Like my mom made me go to do like college, which in England you finish school and then you have 2 years of like extra school and then university. And because my birthday is in August, which is the end of the school year, I couldn't drive when I left school. So my mom's like, well, we can't take you riding and you can't drive, you're going back to school. So I was like forced back for that extra 2 years, like against my will. Luckily, I found school, not to like sound like big-headed or anything, but I found school reasonably easy. Like I could kind of pass all my exams without putting too much effort in. Like I did pretty good in school, and I thought if I'm here, I might as well
have a crack.
Like I wouldn't say I put a massive amount of effort in, but I thought if I'm here, I might as well, pass at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And then the second year, everyone's like, what the teachers are like, you need to apply to university. I'm not going to university. Like I'm 100% not. Like that's not for me. I'm just going to ride my bike and whatever happens. And they're like, oh, you need to do a CV. What happens if it doesn't work? I'm just like, I'm not. I'm riding my bike. Whatever happens, if I have to live in a tent, I'm living in a tent just so I can ride my bike. And then a few of them have messaged us since, like, I'm pleased it all worked out or whatever. I'm like, yeah, well, you fucking weren't pleased for me to go down that route a few years ago.
Yeah, dude, I always call it like that broke bitch mentality, because like there was a switch for me that happened like probably October 2019 when Rones, the young fella, like one of the young boys, started working with me, and mate, I fucking like was just literally, I'd pay him and then my account would go to zero. And I was just like, fuck. Every time that it happened, I would just like back to zero. And I'd have enough to pay like my rent and all my shit. But like, it was just constantly going back to fucking zero. And like, I was the guy that I would just like every like bill would be late. I'd wait till like the last day to pay, because you're so like, whenever you've got any kind of money in your account, like you just want to keep it there because you just don't know when the fucking next lot of money's coming in. And it was funny actually, Sammy Moore, he just said to me, he's like, mate, your life will change the day that you just get over it and like you don't give a fuck about how much money's in your account, and like you get an invoice, pay it that second. You get your fucking boys got to get paid, pay it. That's just get rid of money as fast as you can out of your account if it's something that needs to happen for you to benefit, get better. And he's like, and your life will fucking change. And I listened to his advice and I was just like, Bill, bang, pay it. And it created a little bit of like momentum for me. And then it just completely changed everything. But I went from just fucking the brokest mindset and making everything last and not getting a new camera, and instead of getting like a proper video light, I'd go to Bunnings. I'd get a fucking like a porch light, you just do everything you can to fucking scrounge. And yeah, there is like that sort of tipping point. And then I guess like the stage then that you've got to go through is like not trying to go back to those old ways when there is money in the account and you can't afford it, and like you got the habit to like want to cut corners because you got to pay to play.
Yeah, no, I think there's a happy medium to it as well. Like, obviously, you can go too far, and you can start to kind of forget where you come from as well. Which I think, I don't feel like I'm at risk of that happening. But at the same time, it's always slightly conscious. Like, I don't want to. And I know how hard it was for the people around us to get us.
PTSD, eh?
Yeah, like, I know how hard it was for like the people around us to get me to where I was like. Don't get us wrong, like I had a really good upbringing and like a great childhood, and but I was never like, I don't want to sound like we put everything in, like there was always
but
food
you just
on
had
the
realistic
table.
You had realistic
but I always
parents.
knew like the strain it was putting on the family, and like at the same time, like it was never like, oh, you can't, we don't have any new clothes this year, we can't eat this week. Never anything like that. But I just knew I could see the strain, like financially, it was putting on the family to have me riding a bike at the level I was. So I'm like always kind of thankful and appreciative of that, and never want to kind of go too far the other way, where it's like, doesn't matter anymore, like whatever, like I'm sorted, if you know what I mean. It's like, it's just where it's at.
Yeah, and I think, it's like, it's not like, you're going to go fucking homeless for it, but there's a certain point, like when you've got responsible parents that have got a kid, like you said, you're a smart dude, you could do anything else. It's like, you just, as a parent, you just don't want to see a good kid that could do other shit, just like chase a fucking dream that's not going to go anywhere, there is a point where people just have to cut it off for you if it's not going to work.
I had a split to me. My mom was always like, my mom was always on my side. She was like, don't worry, he's going to be famous, and she was like 100%, like she'd blow all the smoke up my arse, like it's going to happen. It's like, what'll be will be. It's going to happen, like a bit of like the mystical side. The universe is going to favor him, like he's meant to be. I think, I don't 100% know the story, but she'd seen like some psychic whatever she'd went to see when I was a kid, and like this woman had told her that I was going to be famous when I was older. I don't know the ins and outs of the story, but I've heard of it a few times. I want to actually get her to tell us it anyway. She'd been to see some woman, said I was going to be famous, so she's always like, nah, it's going to happen, That was like in the end why she lent us the money. I lent the money to lend me the money to buy my enduro bike, because my dad was like supportive. He'd wanted us to change to enduro for like the last couple of years, because he didn't really see a future in trials and stuff like that, but I obviously, that was my dream to be like a world trials champion. So we'd kind of exhausted it every possible avenue to kind of make it work, and then it didn't. So then but by that point I said, no, I think I want to do enduro. He's like, oh well, there's no money left to do it, whatever. He kind of switched a little bit. He was like pushing us to change over like a couple of years earlier. So at that point, he's like, it's a good decision, but literally, we can't afford to do it again. So it was like, my mom was like, no, this is the calling, I guess, like went for like the old kind of mystical approach to the universe. This is the time, whatever. So like,
Mercury
she was
is
like,
in retrograde.
like my dad's always like, no, fuck this one. You're getting a job. You're getting in the fucking real world, because this isn't lasting forever. And she's like, no, this is the time. And she was like, so I had a pretty good balance, to be fair. My mom always kind of gave us the push I needed, like the reassurance that, nah, it was going to happen at some point, and then, but definitely got humbled and stayed grounded by my dad. Like, and even like when I started riding, got like a husky ride or whatever, he's like, oh, you're fucking shit, you haven't won any races yet, we'll see what happens or whatever. And like, he's like, just the most like, I just enjoy so much the balance I got from the two of them, to be honest. Like even now, like I'll win a race in, like at the last Indo, I was second in the first race, then won the last two finals, and he's like, oh, you were shit in the first final though, weren't you? You stalled it and got stuck on that log. And I just get such a good grounding every time I go home. I speak to someone from home.
That's just such like a part of English culture. I think that's that's such a shared thing that Australians got from England, is just like that banter, and like, I mean sometimes people take it too far, like with the tall poppy shit, like, but when it stays in that banter form, like it is so good. There's just no way with like a good group of like Aussie or English mates, people will let each other get too far ahead. There's very few yes men in our cultures. Yeah,
definitely. Like you see it everywhere. To most people, like it comes across like me and my dad probably hate each other and just constantly fight. But we're just like, no, whatever, like, what, you fucking idiot, and what the fuck you done that, like, it's just constant, just at each other's throat. And like, even we were in Spain in December time, and me and Johnny and Manny were riding together quite a bit, and me and Johnny are both from like North England, so like we're just
belting each other.
Oh, we just roast each other constantly, like and then Manny's like keeps thinking like we're generally about to start fighting, and like so many times you could just see the look of concern on his face when he's just like, what's going on now, and we're just like fully roasting into each other, and we have to keep reassuring him like, no, this is normal, like call everyone whatever, like every name under the sun, but we were good mates, don't worry, like this is fully normal.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. It's such a good part of our culture. I actually miss that when I lived in the US. Like it was real hard to get that like back and forward with people. Like it was just very taken like way too literally. Like you just could not call anyone
yeah, well, for saying it on here, that's just me. Every single sentence between me and Johnny is like, you're daft, or you fucking whatever else. It's just like, it's just so normal, but then you say it to like in the wrong time when someone's not expecting it, and it's literally like you just like they've seen a ghost or something. Like, it's just normal. Everyone in England.
Oh mate, the last we did the podcast with Casey Stoner, and every YouTube we got like 6,000 new subscribers on YouTube from that episode, and mate, the fucking people that were like, this host is a fucking joke. Well, they didn't say fuck, actually. They're like, this host is a joke. His language is disgusting. And I'm just like, oh, I wish you just understood where we come from. Like, we come from Australia, mate. Like, fuck off.
Yeah, people are mental. I had one comment on one of my YouTube videos saying, well, I actually looked at his account and seen he'd commented on a few. I hadn't noticed any of his earlier comments, but he did this big long essay saying how vulgar I am, and how the Piera mobility group, whatever, as a country, as a company built upon this or whatever, and this, I do not meet the criteria, blah 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 blah. Just went on like literally just the. And you could just tell this guy had not a single clue about what he was going on about or anything. Nah. And he said, I've forwarded this video to Mr. Piera, and I hope he can help you better your career, and like, just the most just stupid shit. And I showed like a few of the people at the factory and stuff like that, like a couple of the bosses, and they're just laughing at it. Like, thankfully, like the people around us are all kind of understanding of what we're doing, and because I think me and my mechanic are both English, it's kind of rubbed off on a lot of like the people around us and stuff like that, and like we're the same, just completely at each other constantly, and it's just like everyone kind of gets the vibe, and I think for the most part it comes across well, but you do just get the absolute idiots that just come out of nowhere, and you're just like, what are you on about? And YouTube just seems to bring out the most bizarre comments ever compared to like Instagram.
Instagram's sweet.
You get the odd guy just shut up, but then YouTube, they just come out from nowhere on YouTube.
Oh man, I posted a thing the other day on my Instagram where I was just like, mate, comment while you can, because like the channel is getting to the point. I did see that actually, yeah. I was like,
at some point I'm not even going to look at them or something like that.
I'm just not going there, because like I just can't fucking stand it, and like I wish. I'm sorry to hijack the podcast here, mate, but fuck, I'm on it. I'm on one. But like, I wish people would understand too that it's like the two comments that piss me off the most are like the swearing thing. It's like, all right, yeah, I probably do swear too much. I'm Australian. My dad said fuck 8 times before he got me out of bed.
My dad splits fucks up to put swear words in between the middle of the word fuck. Like, you should hear him on the phone to one of his mates, and you'd just be like, okay.
100%. Yeah. And the thing is like all these people that I'm talking to on the podcast, they're all my mates. This is how we talk off camera. They're sponsored by that person. They get paid millions of dollars. So like they've got a reason to button it up. But that's how they fucking talk. Trust me.
Nah,
I don't get paid by no one millions of fucking dollars. I'm the boss, so I'll talk how I want to talk. Is that fair? And then the fucking second one is he talks too much. Mate, it's 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours. How would you feel if I locked you in a room and fucking interrogated you for 4 hours with just dot point questions? You'd be out of the room in half an hour.
But at the end of the day, tuned in to listen to your show, but do they expect to not hear your voice? Like,
yes, people genuinely do.
People are mental. Comments, they do blow my... I've got such a love-hate relationship with the internet and just the modern world. Like, it's so amazing for some things that it does and what you can do with it in the platform it gives you. But then it just gives a platform as well to people to comment that you know, realistically, these people would never be in an air, like to be in a position to have a conversation with you, or they would never be in a position to broadcast any opinion that they have to your audience. Like, it just wouldn't happen. They don't have no right to be there. But the fact it's just an open place for anyone to just spout any shit that wants to come out of their mouth. And it just makes me hate the world when I see some of this. Like, I never ever get caught up by it, and it never really bothers us. But I can fully understand why people do get bothered by it. Like, I can switch off and say, I don't give a shit. I post what I want to post. I do what makes me happy. Like, if I don't like it, I don't post it. If I enjoy something, I post it. Whatever. Like, if people don't like it, I don't care. But I can 100% see why people get caught up about it, and like, it just gives people that don't deserve a platform such a big platform. And the problem is they comment, and then however many people believe what they've just read is when I see a problem, and when it really starts to piss me off, and when I don't like it, and it's just like, come on, like, you don't. It just makes you hate the world that we live in, to be honest, at times. Yeah,
well, I think that's like a big part of it is like. It's always too, like, you can see the trends of, it's always on videos where like other people say it. So it's like you have a video where like no one says anything shit, and then as soon as there's a video where you'll get like 2 shit comments, it's just like
there's a way in now, like,
yeah,
fucking get him.
Yeah, everyone wants to get in on it. But my favorite response is just like, mate, you're right. Send me your podcast with Daniel Ricciardo and I'll sit and take notes. Or send me your 4 hours with Casey Stoners and I'll take notes. And like, you try not to take it personally, but like, fuck, like the money that you spend to give people free content. And you're just like, fuck off.
And then half the time you do respond and people are like blown away that you've even responded.
Yeah.
They're just like shit themselves. Like, oh my God, can't believe you've answered. Like, you were just shitting on us before. And like, it's just fucking, people are mad.
So that's my rant over. Sorry, Billy. I fucking hijacked your podcast. I talk too much, mate.
Fuck them. I'm fully in agreement though. Like the shit people come out with these days is just mental, and like it gives them such a platform that they don't deserve.
Yeah, it's a good segue though into media, because you are one of the guys that basically. All right. Were you doing Instagram and like being the fucking biggest lord ever before you got famous, or like, so this was just something that you rolled on into, and as you got more steam and like more notoriety, like people sort of associate it as your brand, or was it like a very calculated thing where you were like, fuck all these other twats that are boring as batshit, I'm going to be cool and like do my own stuff? Like what was your mentality in that game?
I think it's always been there, to be honest. Like, I've been posting on Instagram, like videos. I don't know. I feel like everything's changed so much in the last few years. Like, it's now acceptable to go, at the end of the day, just videos, get a clip of us doing that for Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, before it was like a taboo thing, like not a taboo thing, but like
boyfriends
like,
of Instagram.
It was just like, really? Like, do you need this video? Whereas like, I think now it's just like my mechanic or whatever is like super down. He doesn't really get the whole media world too much, but like he's obviously seen the podcast, he's seen the vlogs, he's been around me and Ed and can understand like what we're doing, and he's like super down. He understands the value of it now. But like 3 years ago when I used to ask him, he's just like, nah, fuck off. Like, it was just a lot hard. Like, I was always trying and pushing for it, and like I always kind of wanted to have an online presence, I would say, ever since probably like 2013, 2014, maybe.
Yeah,
okay.
You've seen it early.
My last 2 years of trials, I was like trying to make a thing, but obviously at the same time, trials is never good. It's trials. Like, as much as I love it, it's like, I always love trials. It's just, it's not cool at the end of the day.
You will be able to bring it back.
Well, I used to try, but but obviously I had no following back then. Like it wasn't. And I was a kid at the end of the day as well. Like I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of videoing or whatever. Like getting video. Like I could have done a much better job looking back now. But at the same time, it was just kind of what me and a couple of my mates wanted to do at the end of the day. Like we used to fuck around and try and do some jumps and try and look somewhat cool. And like we did backflips on trials bikes at one point and stuff like that. So like it's always been there. I've always like wanted to do it, and I've been kind of wanted to have an online presence since I was young. Like I used to watch quite a few stuff when I was like a kid. I used to watch Brandon Seminock's web series or whatever it was called. Life Behind Bars, is it? Is that what it's called? I used to watch that a lot, and I used to just think like
Brandon Seminock.
Yeah, he was like doing vlogs. I don't even know. Like when was that? Like 2010 or something. That series was. It
would have been with Clay Porter.
It used to be called a webisode then. Is that what they used to call them?
Yeah.
And I used to watch that a lot. And I used to watch quite a few of like ski snowboard movies and stuff like that. Like I was always like 100% focused on competing and getting the best results possible, but I always used to watch so much other shit like in school. Like I used to for some reason, like in our school computers, like YouTube's blocked and everything's. Yeah. For some reason, at my school, Empora. Do you remember that website?
Yes, dude.
Empora used to be unblocked on my school website for some reason.
Yeah. Dude, I had videos get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views on Empora back in the day. That's where I used to first post videos.
A few thousand times probably off me when I was sat in school. Like I'm trying to even think what I used to watch a lot back then. Like I used to watch all sorts. I used to watch Parks Bonifay wakeboarding videos.
Yes.
But like I know nothing about wakeboarding. Like I still don't. But I used to watch.
Did you ever watch like the mountain bike stuff? Like like Chainsmoke, New World Disorder.
Yeah, Chainsmoke. Where the Trail Ends.
Yes.
I love that.
Did you ever get into like Earthed? Do you remember that?
No, I don't think I watched it.
That was a mountain bike DVD that was from Dirt magazine. Fuck, it was like.
I used to also. That's another thing.
Up.
Which I don't like is how dead magazines don't exist anymore. Because, and I keep saying this, I've got a younger sister. I've got two sisters. One's 18 and one's 8. So there's some quite big gaps. But my middle one was never really too interested in riding too much. Well, she never really bothered. But my younger one is big into ride. Like she loves riding. She goes racing. Her and my dad go racing every weekend. So like my dad's full circle. He's like super involved. Like all in. He's like dad. Every weekend he's like, well, now she's obviously she's more fortunate, like I can sort bikes out, whatever. She's got like a trials bike, she's got a motocross bike, she's just got like do whatever you want. So obviously she's got no interest in riding trials because no kids do unless they're forced to, it seems like. So she's riding motocross and enduro quite a bit. But anyway, I'm like, you need to get her magazines, because I remember as a kid, we didn't used to have an iPhone. I used to sit on like a 6-hour drive to like a British Championship, and I would study magazines. I'd have like Dirt Magazine, Mountain Bike UK, Dirt Bike Rider. I'd have like, and I would just study like the most bizarre shit. Like I'd study what finger riders used to use on the clutch, and I'd look at where look at like stickers on bikes, and I remember just like cover to cover, it would be like the same magazine in the van for like a month at a time. So I'd be like every journey looking at the same pictures. But I honestly think it just benefited us so much. Dude,
I 100% agree.
Because it's just not the same. Like you zoom in a picture on Instagram, it's 100% not the same. Like I remember like so many pictures, like even like I say to Tommy, if he's not really like cottoned on really, but I used to be like studying pictures of him in Dirt Bike Rider from, I can't even think what year it was, but like when he just came back from America, probably on Kawasaki, I'd be like, studying pictures of him, like all MXGP guys. Like I don't know, I feel like I just got such an influence from so much, because I was just like watching and looking at so much different stuff. So like ever since then, like since I watched the Brandon Seminock stuff, and stuff like that, I always, aside from racing, I always wanted to be like him. Like I wanted to have a track at my house. That's and a guy that comes in videos. Like that's always been like a dream in the back of my mind, because obviously when everyone's putting so much effort into getting you to races or whatever, like it has to be you have to be, that's kind of the goal, is to get results or whatever. It's always difficult to kind of dream outside the box, I guess, when it's, you know, so difficult to get there in the first place. But I've always kind of, like I say, wanted to be that guy. There was the Athertons also did a webisode of Red Bull. Theirs was pretty cool. I'm trying to, there used to be a few I used to watch anyway and stuff like that. So like I've always just, that's kind of always been what I wanted to do, as well as racing. And I can always feel like it's possible, but obviously it requires, you got to know what you're doing to a certain degree. Like now, with how easy it is to pick up a camera, pick up a phone and make a vlog, it's a lot easier, but it's still difficult. Like I tried to make vlogs a couple of times before kind of Ed eventually said, like, you need to make vlogs, like your personality, the amount of different places you're going, it's like entertaining, you need to do it. And I'm like, I've tried, it's just not as easy as it seems. And then it was like Ed that finally gave us like the kick. He's like, we built the track at Ed's house. He's like, let's vlog this, let's video it. So he did all of the first, I think it was like 7 or 8 episodes. And they went down like pretty good, like pretty consistent. I was kind of expecting probably like a spike, like one got mad views, one didn't get many, but it was just like super consistent growth, like real solid comments, like everyone supportive. And I was like, I'll try and keep it going and stuff like that. Then eventually that was pretty much the kick, really. Like I did a couple on a GoPro, and now like, okay, the audio's not that good on this, like, well, let's get a camera. And then just kind of spiraled from there, really. And then, but wanted to learn, kind of like everything I do. I like really wanted to learn, figure out how to do it and stuff. Didn't want to like rely on Ed to do, wanted to be able to, obviously it's nice to come home and if he videos a vlog or whatever, he'll edit it and it's like a super nice one to look at and nice crispy editing and stuff like that. But I wanted to get to a point where I can kind of survive and keep it going on my own and stuff like that. So that's kind of brings us to where we are now. And like the Instagram kind of, I think, just developed alongside that, really. Like from the start of Enduro, I guess it has a much bigger audience, so my Instagram grew pretty fast within the first couple of years of Enduro. But I always just do, like, I think there's a lot more I could do to grow it faster. Like, I see stuff that's trending, like everyone's riding like big adventure bikes and stuff like that now, and it's getting crazy numbers. But to me, it's just not cool. Like, I just not on board with it. Like, I understand why a lot of people, hobby guys, people think it is impressive to see the bike do that, but at the end of the day, I feel like there's so many people that could do the same thing. Like I just do whatever I think cool. What you're into. I'd never force it. Like it's just like, and again, if no videos happen from there that day, like I go, oh, that would have been cool to do, but it's like not a big deal at the end of the day. Like it's all just not forced. I think that's why it comes across so well, is like it is just super raw as it is, like natural. If I think it's cool, if I'm happy with, like, there's times I've asked people, I've got videos and I've asked like Roxy, my girlfriend, or mechanic, to stand there, and I'm like, oh, I don't even like how it looks in the end. Like they've stood there for like 30 goes or something, and then I haven't even it's like, I don't like, I know for a fact it would still go crazy. Like people would love it. Like you could do a wheelie, people froth over it, do you know what I mean? They love it, but I'm just like, oh, I don't really like it, it's not that cool. So I'm pretty critical of it. And like, I know that's kind of a downfall and that's a little bit of a drawback to it. But at the same time, it's like, it's something that I want to be proud of, and I want to kind of take, look back on and be proud of everything that I've done on it, to be fair.
Yeah, that makes sense. Man, you're so right. Like, I think about this generation, like just the pure Instagram generation, like have missed out on so much dope shit. Like, I should post a photo one day if my parents still have all my magazines. Like, I would have legitimately hundreds and hundreds of magazines that I read from cover to cover. Like, I've always been pretty big into reading anyway, but like, dude, the magazines was just like a thing for me. And then the DVDs, I mean, I got pretty lucky. I think it's probably why I ended up going into filming. My uncle actually made some pretty famous mountain bike DVDs. He was kind of like one of the first dudes to ever like kind of get into downhill, and he made like the first downhill movie and stuff. So I think I probably got into it through that. But like, yeah, our generation of crazy dope like VHS tape mountain bike films, and you know, like the snowboard films and all the crusty demons, and you just sit there and you'd know, like even me and Ricardo were talking about it, like you know all the words to all the songs. All my music taste came from all of these films, and you know, you can still put in some of those DVDs today and just be like, fuck, we had it good. And now it's like 15-minute like 15-second fucking TikTok songs that you just scroll. It's just the same song every single fucking reel. Looking back, it was such a sick time, and it also the lack of availability, I think, was super. Like looking back, is probably annoying. Like I remember I had Nitro 2, I think it was the one where Streetbag Tommy overshoots the foam pit, and that was like the only Nitro Circus thing I had for a long time. I probably got it for Christmas, I guess 7 or 8, something like that. And that was the only Nitro thing that I had for so long. Just because like you didn't really shop on the internet then. So like in the UK, there wasn't a big thing. So like if anything that would come up of a DVD, a crusty DVD, whatever, like my parents would buy and I get it for Christmas or my birthday or whatever. Like, but they didn't know what they were buying either. Like I remember like I got like the crusty soundtrack CD. My mum fully thought it was the DVD. I'm like, I thought it was the DVD. I plug it in and it's just like the soundtrack. So I was like, oh, well, that's better than nothing. Like, used to stare at the picture of probably Steph Henslow, whoever it was, about to wad themselves on a June. That was like the picture on the front of the CD cover. But like, yeah, that was the Nitro 2 was the only Nitro DVD I had for so long, and I used to just know the whole words of like the voiceover guy, what chapter was coming up next, and whenever someone would say something stupid, I'd be like, seeing it as they came out with it. I think just like you just valued it so much more because there was so much. It was like it was so valuable to you. And then I remember the Travis 199 Lives DVD came out, and I was like, the internet is obviously a lot bigger back then, and I'd kind of caught wind of it, and I'm just like, I need this DVD. Like Travis was like the god literally to me at that point, like the god, and I'm just like to my dad, I need this DVD, and he got it bought it off the internet, like from America. I obviously had to pay like import duty or whatever on it. Then I just watched that like repeat. We had a little like a little DVD player in the back of our old van we used to go racing to, and that was just 109 just on repeat. That was it, over and over again. It was just, and like you say, exactly the same with the magazines. I just study just the most bizarre things. I remember even like the advert, the shop adverts in the magazines. I'm just reading fucking every single thing just because I just wanted more and more and more. Whereas now I feel like there's just too much for kids. They can't choose. Whereas that kind of probably what give me such a drive to want to do more, want to be more, want to be in the magazines. Because I just had such a like love for them, and yeah, I'd get in the van, pull the magazine out the side pocket, and that was it. Me for the next 2 hours just staring at just pictures of the whatever I could find. Yeah, it's so sick, man. And I mean, for you, your way of, I guess like, because I always think about it as like the culture. Like I just love the culture of riding, and like I always wanted to add to the culture. Like I never knew that I'd be, well, I always knew I wouldn't be a rider. Like I was just never that good, but I always just wanted to like do my bit to add to the culture. I wanted to be someone that like made something that was like in the, you know, in our culture. And it's like, I knew I couldn't do it riding. So it's like, that's why I think I love this so much, is it's a different time. It's a different age, just a different medium, but it's like, this is my way of kind of like trying to contribute in that same lane, you know?
But so many perspectives are shared as well. Like we kind of both have the exact same memories of like the couple of DVDs that we have, which we just used to just smash over and over again, like magazine style. Like I'd watch literally anything. I can't even think like the others, like surf stuff, wake. I know nothing about, well, a little bit, but like I'd literally watch anything like that. If it like had something to do with Red Bull in it, I'd be like, oh, that's it, I'm watching that. Or like whatever it might be, I'd just like, that's so sick. And like I say, the amount of hours I spent in school just on Empora, just watching whatever anyone had made. It was just, I think I was probably a little bit young to really appreciate how sick of a time it was. Like, I'd just be watching it because it was like, it was something to watch.
What you're into,
Exactly. But like now I've obviously making videos a lot more and stuff like that. Like if I was a little bit older, I definitely would have appreciated it even more. But at the same time, I'm pleased I was in the generation I was and not any later, because I definitely think the kids these days haven't got it as good. It might seem easier, and they've got every 10-year-old.
But it's more shallow.
Yeah, definitely. Every 10-year-old's got an iPhone, and they can go and watch whoever Instagram story and see what they've been up to that day. But like I'd watch like the Nitro DVD and just like wonder, and just what is Travis Pastrana doing? What is he doing today? Like, and then you get onto the YouTube and you do like the house tour video, and like the X Games pre-show videos where like they'd give us house tour, they'd like show you like a couple hours of him like in the foam, and I'd just be like, oh, wow, like this is the coolest shit ever.
Dude, my one of my ones that I just like, probably the DVD I played the most was the Great Outdoors 2004 when Ricky got the perfect season. Yeah, like every song, like I knew every clip. I could have if someone gave me the raw footage of that DVD.
You do the voiceover.
No, I could have cut it back together.
You knew exactly the cuts.
Yeah, I knew the songs, the cuts, like, yeah, all the voiceover. Oh, fuck it. Yeah, that was a sick time, man.
It was. It's not, and it's such a shame, like, there's no real movies or DVDs or it's just, but I guess people's attention spans just aren't like they used to be. It's just next. Oh, we'll do 10 seconds on this clip rather than 5 seconds, and that's good these days, to get someone's attention span for 15 seconds as opposed to 2 seconds. You know what I mean? It's crazy the speed that we live in these days.
Well, I think that's what's cool about the podcast stuff, though. Like, I mean, you guys do your podcast for over an hour. This is always, I try and make this always 3 hours plus. And I mean, our retention on this is crazy. I'm sure it's the same for you guys. Yeah. So I think that, there's definitely a place for it.
Yeah. You are probably right there, to be honest. I do agree. Our podcast has gone really good. Like I say, it was that just come by chance. I just said to Ed, like, we need to do a podcast. Like, I've just done one. Like, I went to a couple of road racers that live nearby me do ones called Chasing the Racing. So a shout out to them, because without theirs, ours probably wouldn't have started. They're super close to me, and they invited us round to the studio. They've got a pretty cool setup. They have it in like a trailer, and they drive to all like the British Superbike races with like the studio. So like they just get whoever guests at the race or whatever. And
that's
anyway,
sick.
they invited me on, and it was like my first time, kind of with the headphones and the microphone and in the studio, and I just proper enjoyed it. Like, it's nice to just sit down and talk and just It just happened, and I was just like, that's pretty sick. And then while we're on there, we'd just obviously started doing vlogs at this point, and Tommy hadn't even started his own. He was just in mine, but it just the first few ones of Tommy in mine, when he's like, oh, this is stupid, and he's like so against it, and he's just moaning about everything, it's just comical. And I just thought, fuck, like the vibe we have, and like
big time.
When we're just sat around talking shit in the garage, which we do for like an hour after we've finished riding anyway, like that's, people would 100% be all in on that. And like, plus obviously the base we have here, and the different people that come and go on like every week, like between, you know, other riders or whatever. And we could probably push it more and have a lot more guests or whatever, but at the same time, there's only so much time you can put towards it. But I just said to Ed, like, we need to put in Ed's on. I don't really know if it's going to gain that much. Like, no, honestly, I don't care whether it makes money or not. I've just sat for 2 hours and talked shit, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, we need to do it. And he's like, coming in. I was like, I just got a sponsor for a video I was about to do. And yeah, their sponsor was like £1,000 or whatever, and I was like, "This podcast, there's a 4-man podcast kit here for like £1,000. I'm buying this one. They were getting sponsored of the next video anyway. Like, let's just crack on." So I was like, ordered it. He's still like not convinced. Ordered it to get sent to his house. I was like, "Well, it's coming to your house tomorrow, so you can just set it up and figure out how to work it." Because like, obviously, I haven't got enough time to work out how to work that. So then, anyway, a couple of weeks later, we sat around and went from there. Went pretty good. And then by that point, he's like, "Oh, I can see how this works, to be honest." Like, he'd obviously sold a few more pairs of underpants because we'd been talking about it. And he's like a few people wanted to get involved with it. And it was a good idea.
Yeah, well, I think like I mean, I'm obviously all for it, but there's like a real rare level of access that it gives you because, you know, you can't, and it's for better or worse too. Like that, I mean, the criticism that I get, like if people want to talk shit, like that's really who I am. Like if you're talking shit, like you're not talking shit on like a persona, like that's really me. And that's like the good and the bad of it.
Anyone that can't realize that you're talking for 4 hours, you ain't going to put an act on for 4 hours of talking. Like it's not going to happen. It doesn't happen. Like it's just what happens. It is probably the most raw form. Like, you know, anyone can pretend to be someone else for a 12-minute vlog or whatever. But you sat for I think people just realize, and I think that's really why it benefited Tommy so much and got Tommy's like his perception, people's perception of him, especially in the UK, has improved so much because obviously when he was at such a high level, there was no one heard anything about him. No one knew what he was doing. He had a few injuries, and no one really knew why his results went shit or whatever. And everyone just thought he wasn't putting the effort in or whatever. And people actually now know him. It's definitely benefited him, you know, massively. Obviously, I've luckily and thankfully never kind of been in the position where he was, you know, just getting abuse left, right, and centre and stuff like that. And it's really cool to see really how it's kind of benefited him, and now he's got such a good image because he's, you know, rightly so. He wasn't like he wasn't working the years that he wasn't getting results. Like I know for a fact he was working as hard as anybody else, and like I've seen the effort that he put and the motor guys put in, and it's like people finally realize, okay, there's maybe more to the story, and that's one of the reasons to probably tune in is to just listen to see what comes out. And I guess like those that have been at the top level, or even like you and Ed who've been around the top level, just know so much more about everything. Do you know what I mean? Like it's hard to describe. Like they know like some rider needs this, or some rider if he eats that then starts puking up and feeling shit, or like the finer details that you know, which you don't even think about. Like to some person that's just like mind blowing. Like some details that and then if you just, you know, without even realizing, drop a little bit of insight into that kind of life. People probably going to benefit so much and get so much value from it. Like, you know, like I've listened to your podcast and the times you've been talking about like being around James and being around like Bubba and the stuff you've talked about from like being around that era and being around him whilst he's been training. I'm just like, that's some cool shit right there. Like this is 100% worth tuning into for. Do you know what I mean? And I guess there's so many instances and it's almost better that it comes out without you realizing you're saying something like super cool to somebody else, like which is why I think yours has come so successfully. Like this way more insight and knowledge coming out than you even realize, and or way more useful things or stuff people find cool or stuff people want to listen to and stuff like mind-blowing stuff that comes out than you realize. And I guess we're probably the same, like whether it be some minuscule piece of information about a bike setup or something to do with training or something to do with nutrition, or whether it just be something stupid that you know about someone, people just pick up. Like I know I do, like when I listen to you, so I guess we do the same thing when we're talking about whatever race it might be, or you know, whatever it might be.
Dude, it's almost like the new magazine that you read from cover to cover.
Yeah, it's pretty true. Like if you listen closely and you pick up on certain things, like you just go, oh, that's cool. Like I say, and like I listened to a little bit of the Casey Stoner one as well. I haven't got all the way through that one yet, but some of the shit he was saying, like it's just the thought that he goes through about the most minuscule things, and you just like that's some cool shit. Like what he's on about. I don't race. I've never rode a road bike. I've never done a knee slider, whatever, anything like that. But I'm just like the thought processes that he's going through in like the minuscule things that he's changing and stuff like that. Like that's just cool to listen to that kind of knowledge about something. I probably wouldn't care if it was like non-motorbike related, like if he's going into that much detail about some shit, but the fact it's like it's super relevant wheels to me and it's motorbikes, and I'm just like and obviously I know Casey Stoner, my dad's a massive MotoGP fan, and Casey Stoner is like one of his favourite riders kind of after Rossi and stuff like that, and I know the era when he was winning on Ducati and stuff like that was like pretty unheard of. Like there was no one else could control that bike at the time. Even
like
that.
We didn't talk about it, but like Bridgestone tires. No one even won on those tires.
That was in
before.
The era when there was like the tire rivalries and stuff like that. Like there's just so much cool shit. Like, and I guess not everybody picks up on it. In fact, I know most people probably don't. Like, people listen and they're like, oh, that was cool. Like, kids don't know, I was like riding fast or whatever. But when you really think about like the things when you process the things he was thinking about, like it is pretty cool. And like, I think back, like it makes me think about my racing, and I'm like, I actually think about things a lot more than I realize. And I think probably a lot more than people realize. Like, I think people just see me as a bit of like a big daft lad that just likes to have a laugh and a joke around and just fucks around, doesn't really care, just cool videos or whatever. But for when it comes to racing and stuff like that, I definitely I'd one of the bigger thinkers, I would say, of people in my racing. But I don't really realize at the time, and then I think about how much he thinks about it, and I'm just like, I think about things quite a lot too, like, you know, weighting of the pegs and foot position, and there's a lot of thought actually goes on in my world as well. It's pretty cool. It's just nice to kind of, I don't know, I just benefit so much from it that I guess you don't realize you're producing it, and I guess obviously we do the same thing. It's cool.
Yeah, well, when you were talking about the trial stuff before, I had all these questions, and then you just literally answered them, and I was like, fuck, that's so sick. Like, you actually, because I kind of get the vibe from listening to some of the stuff that you guys talk about, that you are that way of thinking. And I mean, that's my jam. I love to think about shit in detail, because I hate to think about myself. So it's like, I like to think about problems. Yeah. And you know, whenever I see other people that really think shit through, I'm like, fuck, that's my guy right there. So yeah, like when you were talking about the trials side of things and like what you learn from trials that you can apply, you know, like just with, you know, the way that the soil moves and like the tire and the grip, and I was just like, fuck yes, that's the juice right there.
Yeah, I think I've got a good mix of both as well. I can also switch off from it as well, and just because I think you've got to have a good balance. Like, I obviously can, I read, okay, the more times you try this hill, it's going to get better. But at the same time, and even kind of when it comes to like setting up your bike and stuff like that, I like actually really enjoy testing and the factory. I've done not a lot of testing, but I've done quite a bit of testing, some R&D testing and stuff like that. And I really enjoy like feeling for changes and stuff like that. But so I really enjoy R&D testing and testing stock bikes and testing new stuff. But when it comes down to like testing and fine tuning my bike, I really dislike it. And I'm like, because I start to think about it too much. And like, there's so many times like on a multi-day race or whatever, I had a bad race, and I'm like, the weight's a little bit too in the back. I'm starting to wheelie coming up hills. I'm not getting traction. So I'll make a big change, and then they'll be like, do you want to try it? I'm like, no, I'll just race with it tomorrow morning, just because like, I know if I start going into it and like, if I get really critical about it, I'm still not going to be happy with it. But if and in the past, I definitely couldn't do this. Like, my head used to just fall off. If my bike didn't feel good enough in a race, like, I'd proper struggle. Whereas now I'm like the complete opposite. I'm like, it doesn't phase us one bit. That's why I don't even worry too much. Like, we've had problems. I've had to swap engines after testing the bike or whatever. Like, you got to swap an engine. Do you want to go and try it again? I'm like, nah. Like, we haven't got time to change it again. So that engine's gonna have to do. Like, it doesn't bother me. Like, I'll figure it out once I start riding and stuff like that. So I think now I've developed quite a good mix of the times when I can, you know, if we have time available and resources available, I do enjoy thinking and trying to improve something and like making it better. But I can also like, nah, fuck it, that's gonna have to do. Like, that's what we've got to go racing with. Like, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. And I even like the suspension guys, I'll be like, I don't really know what I want to do. I'll be like, I'll say make it a little bit harder. Okay, how many clicks? 3, 4. I'd be like, do 3.5. Like, don't make it click fully. Just like open the screwdriver and then just take it out, and then whichever way it falls, that's probably a bit of my mom's universal side. Like, whatever way it falls, that'll be the right one.
Dude, it's fun. Like, this is to get university on you, but you think about like all of the universe is made of just like duality. You've got hot, cold, up, down, light, dark, light, but you literally need both for anything to happen.
That's very true. Yeah, that's very true.
And I try and think about that so much in my life. Like, I work like fuck to be a gnarly cunt that can strangle anybody in jiu-jitsu, and I love to be in like a fight with people, you know, like I want to be really comfortable just being a fucking savage. And then I also want to be like the nicest, most kind, like gentle, you know, so that I think that it's super important. And like there's been times in my life where, like when I was way younger, where I just wanted to focus on like one thing so much. And even with work, like I want to think about what I'm doing. I want everything to be technically so good, but then I also want to forget what I spoke about. Like I just don't want to give a fuck. I don't want to listen to anything. I don't want to. So it's like, I think that is the move. Like anyone that leans too far, like either way, even with like your ego, you know, like if you sort of, there's a certain amount of ego that you need to be like a competitive racer that thinks that he can win, right? So it's like the helmet comes on, full ego, just be like the gnarliest dude in the world. But then as soon as the helmet comes off and you're under the truck, be like the lowest person there. Yeah. Be every mechanic's better than you, the team manager's better than you, the truck driver's better than you. So like just completely go the opposite end. And I think for me anyway, like that's sort of how I'm more trying to like set my life up these days. Yeah,
I think that definitely it only like when you talk about, or when I hear it is when you realize like how much it actually goes on, to be honest with you. But it is true. And I'd say that's why the last obviously 2 years my results have improved a lot more. I mean, I had success before that, but I've definitely took a big step forward, and I think it is just because of that balance. Like, and now I back myself to the point like I feel like I could ride around a problem, or I could ride around whatever. Whereas before, like I say, one bike didn't feel right, that is it. Head would fall off or whatever. Whereas now, like we'll go and test the bike before a race, and be some hill climbs or whatever. I'll just be doing some wheelies in the car park or whatever. I'll be like, the throttle's got enough free play on it. The brakes are in the right position. Like the controls are good. Like these hills aren't actually replicating the hills we're about to race up. Like I ain't gonna get stressed whether I'm the best at going up this hill or not. Like I'll just do some stoppies. Like I'm good. And like so many times they're just like, can you test them? I'm like, nah, honestly, it's fine. Like I'm just going to ride it. I'll race it and it'll be fine. And I almost kind of prefer it. Like, actually, a good example. Our bikes didn't arrive to the race in America. Like, they got stuck in customs. Yeah. Or they sent everything, like engines, suspension, to build bikes when they got to America for the race last year, and they didn't arrive. So we're going to have to use the American bikes, which will have like different frames, different gearboxes, literally everything. And then slowly one parcel or one crate would get released from customs, and it got to like the day before the race, and like half the stuff had arrived. So they're like sorting through the boxes, like, we can build you this, and we can build like an engine with the right gearbox and blah blah blah. I'm just like, I really honestly don't care. Like, just give me that American. I'll just ride the American's bike. Like it's like completely fine. It's a new bike anyway. Like it's not going to feel the same as the one I've got at home. Nothing's going to feel the same. Like, I'd just rather just relax for this day before the race, rather than watch everyone around me rushing like mad. Like, the mechanics working crazy hard to build this bike, which probably still isn't going to feel right. Like, just give me the American bike. Like, it'll be fine. And then it did the job. It was good enough.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the move. So last year you won the world championship. In which one of the 300 disciplines that you race did you win the world championship? Because I can't fucking keep up.
That was the World Hard Enduro Championship. So like extreme enduro, hard enduro. It was the first year. It had like it's got a full FIM status, like FIM Hard Enduro World Championship. So like extreme enduro, as it used to be called, has a full FIM championship. Goes to 7-8 races a year, whatever. Kind of the mix. So now I race as a full championship super enduro in the winter time, which is obviously indoor racing in the arenas, enduro cross, whatever. That finishes, then we go into the hard enduro world championship. But I did do a round of the world enduro championship, which is like the traditional time card enduro last year. which I did quite well in. I was second on the first day and fourth on the third. I can't remember. Third on the first day and fifth on the second day, something like that. So it does get quite confusing, especially when you throw in that I'd like to do a motocross race if I'm free, and then whatever else. Like, but the two main championship style races, the Super Enduro in the winter, and then Hard Enduro in the main part of the year.
And so winning that world championship, we can't do a podcast with you and not at least brush over winning the world championship. Must be a fucking insane feeling.
Yeah, it was pretty sick. Like, that was my third world title. The first one I had wasn't an FIM world title. It was when they did like a World Enduro Super Series, which was the combined like all the Enduros together, which was a good idea, but it just wasn't really gonna work. Like, the extreme enduro riders were always going to be favored in that kind of championship, just because our races are so gnarly and the fast guys can't finish our races. So that was the first one, and that was 2018, which was still massive. Like, that was still huge. I was so buzzing with that, but I think I was pretty, not that I was that young, but I didn't really appreciate it at the time as much, really. It was kind of like, yeah, world champion, that's pretty cool. Went straight into training for Super Enduro, and then I actually broke my leg about a month later. So I literally went from world champion to broke my leg and had 4 months without even riding. So it was just a bit of a strange time, really. Before I could even be happy about being world champion, I was recovering from an injury. And it kind of, in my mind, forgot that I was world champion a little bit. So then the next world championship I had was the 2020 Super Enduro World Championship, the indoor racing, and that was the last round got cancelled because of COVID, so we never had the last round. I had like a 20 something point lead in the championship, and like so many of my friends had planned to go to the last round. I was in Poland, I think. Yeah, it was meant to be in Poland. Like, so many people from home had planned to go. Like, they had flares, everything, signs. Like, it was, the last round had such good hype, and then it got cancelled like the Thursday before. It was meant to be the Saturday. That was the first of the COVID cancellations in 2020. That was the start of it all. So I never had a last round. Never had a last round of the championship. At the time, they postponed it, so at the time I didn't know if I'd won. And then like 2 months later, in the middle of lockdown, when they realised, okay, the world's not getting back to normal anytime soon, then I got an email. I actually got a message from one of the journalists saying, "Oh, how does it feel to be crowned world champion?" before I'd even seen the email or the press release or anything. So that's how I found out, literally whilst I was having a shit. Text popped up from a journalist like, "How does it feel to be world champion?" And I came out and I was like, walked into the kitchen and I was just like, "I think they've cancelled the last race and I think I'm world champion." And like my mum and Roxy are just like, "Hey!" And I'm just like, yeah. And it was just like the weirdest feeling ever. So I never got the last round. Found like just bizarreness, you know what I mean? Like, didn't really feel right. So then this year or last year, 2021, Hard Enduro was like full championship kind of. You know, me and Manny battled pretty much from the start. It was like a full championship. Worked hard. Everyone worked hard, battled hard, and then took the win. And the last round was just like everything kind of happened in the last round. All went ahead, and it was just, yeah, finally really appreciated that one and kind of really hit home. And with it being, you know, it just all felt right for that one, to be honest. And I made hard work of it. The final round, I just had to finish second. If Manny won, I had to finish second. To win the championship, which he's won that race the last 2 years, so I was pretty pleased to be going in and under those circumstances. So started the race, led the first lap, me and Manny back and forth, and then made just crash after crash, ended up back in sixth, and was like riding around in sixth for like 20 minutes, just thinking, what am I doing? Just could not get going at all. Like, every time I tried to do something, I made a mistake and got stuck and had to retry a hill or whatever. Riding around in sixth with about an hour to go, thinking like, right, you really need to sort something out here because this isn't happening. This isn't what's meant to happen. So then the second off of that race, it was just clicked, and like, luckily, like at this point I'm at now, I managed to stay. Like, a few years ago, my head would have went completely and I'd have blown it, and like that'd have been raging. But I was actually relatively chilled to say I was the last round of the World Championship and I needed to be in second to win. I was relatively chilled. I just thought as soon as I can flick the switch and start riding good, it's going to come back. And I know I was fast enough to pass everyone, so then passed back into second with like 20 minutes left on the clock, and just kind of played it safe in second, and it all got the final round, got the crossing the finish line, and in the party in the truck, and had just a good last round. So it was like a real good year last year. I think looking back, whenever the end of my career may be, probably that's going to be one of my favourite years.
Yeah, because as an athlete, you kind of want that day, right? Like you want the championship day. You want to like prove to yourself, like, righto, when the rubber hits the road, I can actually do it. I can be the man. And then I think I even reposted the video of you crossing the finish line. Everyone had the champagne there for you, and it was like,
amazing. Like the last one, the Super Enduro one, like I was almost like being bummed that I didn't get the last round and the team pictures and the championship pictures and everything like that. I was almost more bummed about that. Like that bummed us out more than like the joy of being crowned champion at the time. Like I was really like, you know, because I know like my whole family, and it still wasn't perfect because my family couldn't travel there because of COVID and stuff like that to Germany for the final round, but it was still like across the finish line, like it was still amazing. Whereas that other time I was just so bummed. I know like how much was like everyone was planned to be there, and it was all gonna be amazing. So no, I'm pleased we got it last year, and it seems that we're kind of somewhat heading to normality for the world, and hopefully things continue, and by some point of this year we're somewhat back to normal.
Yeah. Have you got any like bucket list races that you want to do that you haven't done? Like, have you ever thought about Dakar? Obviously it's so different.
Yeah, I've got some mad ideas. Like it's hard to know what's realistic and what's not. I guess
it's all realistic when you're Billy Bolt.
When I've done such a drastic change as it is, it's hard to and I struggle to kind of, my mind changes so much as well. Like at one point, one day I'll wake up and I'll be like, yeah, I want to win however many more hard enduro world championships, and then another day I wake up and be like, well, I'd like to try something. Like what else is there to do? What else can you do? Stuff like that. And like, I don't really know. Dakar is definitely something I'd seriously consider. I've really got into it a lot more over the last couple of years. I went to Dubai end of last year. Just planned to go on holiday, and then all the Dakar boys were literally in town that week.
Sick.
And it worked out to be the sickest thing ever. Like Toby, Sanders, Sam Sunderland, Van Beveren were literally all there, and I'm like, went for a 2-week holiday and I rode like 11 times in the desert with them. It was so sick, and I proper enjoyed it, to be honest. And I know obviously there's a lot more to it than navigation kind of stuff. I think I would definitely seriously consider it. I'd like to have a bit of a test and see if I was any good with the navigation and stuff like that. If I was no good, then there's no point trying. I think there's that pays so much of it these days. So I would consider it, and then I'd like to race. I'd like to do a bit more on motocross side of stuff. I think I don't mean going like race MXGP or Supercross or whatever, but I'd like to do more. Maybe like some more British Championship races and motocross and stuff like that. But I haven't actually ridden motocross much at all lately. With having like a normal Super Enduro season, I've actually been pretty focused for this winter, like a little bit more than normal. Not just because I've been busy, really. Not in particular, like I didn't feel it was that important. Like if I haven't had a motocross bike with us in Spain or anything like that, so I haven't actually rode motocross for a while. I've just kind of been focusing on that, and I've been been quite busy with some other stuff, so I don't really know. And then I think to like the YouTube side of stuff and like video side of stuff, and like I've got a lot of cool ideas, and like I see a big future in that, and like a lot of possibilities in a lot of like, you know, benefits to kind of focusing more on that route and going down that path. But then at the same time, like I'm always going to want to race. There's going to be like a racer inside of me I don't think I'll ever be able to let racing go fully, and I'm always going to want to do some form of racing. But I also, you know, I do really enjoy making videos and making vlogs and stuff like that, and I'd like to push that a little bit more. I think for the next few years at least, it's definitely not going to be a priority. Racing is going to be a priority, but I do see the value in doing that, and like I say, I enjoy that kind of stuff too. So I don't know, it's hard to say. I think for now, there's races in hard enduro that I want to win that I haven't won yet. Like Erzberg's been cancelled the last 2 years because of COVID, and I haven't won that. I haven't got on the podium there yet. I haven't really had other than that first year, I haven't really done particularly well, I feel like, at Erzberg. So that's definitely one of the ones I want to really improve. And then also Romaniacs, like from how much I struggled that first year to the point I'm at now, like it's just 100% what I want to prove to myself as well. Like, you know, last year that I won the championship. I finished 4th in Romania. That was the only race I was off the podium. But that 4th, you know, I was really actually pretty happy with. I hurt my knee on the first day and then just slowly came back into it and got some 4th solid points for the championship. That was like massive. And like, it's just, that race is just 100%. I want to prove to myself that I can do it and that I've made them kind of improvements. And I feel now like I've got myself to a point where like I can compete in that race, which is, again, like I say, so a big personal satisfaction, really. So yeah, I don't really know. I think where I'm at now is going to be for the next couple of years at least, but I think, yeah, I'm still kind of young enough to go off and see whatever comes of it.
How did when you did the Dakar stuff, like how did you feel with the speeds?
Well, we all were just riding stock 450 motocross bikes, to be fair.
Okay.
They all went there. They had like tests and stuff. It was like November time, and we all kind of arrived at the same time. They were there a week before the team arrived with the bikes and stuff like that. So we were literally all just riding bone stock 450 motocross bikes. It was so dangerous when you think of it. Like, we're all just pinned in 5th, literally just looking at each other. Like, it was so dangerous. But I mean, it was scary, I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's times I remember I was following, me and Van Beveren were riding side by side, and there's a few cool tracks in Dubai which are like just like motocross tracks on steroids. There's one, it's like a 8 or 9 minute lap, and it's literally only 4th and 5th gear. And it's like whooped out, like couple of doubles, couple of like June doubles. It's like gnarly. I think I posted it on YouTube or somewhere. Anyway, there's like Van Beveren put my GoPro on and followed me around it, and like I'm like flat out on my bike as fast as it would go down this like straight, and like as fast as it go, but I'm like thinking about it, staring at it, like really having to work hard to go this fast. And he's like just pulls alongside us, and he's like looking at us, like, and he's just so chilled. And like I was riding with Toby a little bit, and he's just exactly the same, like just stood up, and then I'm like going pretty similar speed. I could tell we're all going fast, but they're just chilled, like, yeah, it's good in it now, pretty good. And I'm just like, oh, you guys are gnarly. But it was cool. Like I did really enjoy it, to be honest. It was all new. First time I'd ever ridden like dunes or anything like that. But it was cool. Like again, it wasn't. I'm not stupid. It wasn't anything like particularly replicable to the Dakar. I know there's 100 more variables go into it, but at the same time, I did enjoy it, and it was. I think I just quite enjoy like learning stuff as well. Like that's why I really like got into riding, like enjoy riding motocross, because probably 2018, the final round of that World Enduro Super Series was a beach race, was Red Bull Knockout. Yeah, and like before that, I spent quite a bit of time, like did some testing of the fact we had like proper beach race bikes, which is like what the guys race Lituke on, like with long swinging arms, 6-speed gearbox, big tanks. So I did some testing to get that bike set up, and Nathan Watson was riding for KTM then, and he was obviously like the man on the beach, and he was working with a guy called Toff, who was like kind of a team coach. He knew, like, was been around beach races a while, classic enduro a while, so he was like just kind of the go-to guy, the helper guy for races and stuff like that. And so I worked like pretty hard with him and on technique and stuff like that, and like really got into that, and was really enjoying that kind of stuff, and the beach side of stuff. So if I hadn't broke my leg, I'd have probably done the 2K that year, just because I'd obviously done knockout. I did pretty good. I think I was 12th at knockout. For a 12s guy, I was pretty happy with that. Like the rest of the extreme guys and enduro guys were a bit further back and stuff like that. But I did thoroughly enjoy like kind of all that experience and figuring that out and learning that. And then so yeah, I think it is just, I just enjoy learning and getting and really seeing improvements. Whereas, you know, like when I ride extreme enduro and stuff, we're kind of pushing the limits and the boundaries of what to do and what's possible and stuff like that. Whereas I go to a motocross track and I know
there's
like
a lot of learning that can still
there's
happen.
Like basics and like foundations where, okay, you get your foot on the peg early so you can put weight down. You're going to get more grip exiting this corner. You can stand up earlier so you can hit this whoop section, or you can hit this rough patch faster. Like, brake earlier, you can set up for the corner. You're going to hit this corner fast. Like, there's so much stuff which I can pick up on myself, and I can like see improvements and learn from. I just, you know, like really enjoy it. Even just stupid stuff like whipping or jumping and stuff like that. Like, I watch Tommy, if he wants to throw a big one off the big jump here, Eds, and I'm just like, fuck me. Like,
yeah.
That's probably one of the only things, to be fair. More stuff now, I watch the guys, the real fast guys, corner-wise, like more stuff where I can comprehend that. I can get my head around what they're doing there, but then I'll watch Tommy like sit down and just throw a big one off the big jump.
Just crank one.
I'm just starting to sit down off the takeoff of this jump. Like, it's big, and I've mainly just been riding it on an enduro bike. I haven't had a motocross bike last year, just how it worked out. But anyway, that didn't really matter too much. But I've just kind of started to get comfortable sitting down off the takeoff. Like, before, I was just only stood up and like I get a little bit of a crank. But like, to think, I mean, he sits down off it and he just gets so cranked, and then like I'll. If I follow him pretty closely, I can like hit the same line, and I can feel, you know, like when you hit the takeoff and like you feel the back, you just know you're gonna go, your back end's gonna step quite far out, just the feeling off the takeoff. And mine's like not even a third of how big he's thrown it. I'm just like, that's one of the things I struggle to comprehend, like the feeling he's getting up that takeoff when he's just fully sat in for a big one, and
how slow they're going. To like, so Berriman, when Berriman hits like a freestyle ramp and cranks like a big one, he's like, like just from the bottom of the ramp, it's just cracked wide open, and it's just like the commitment level to go that slow 5 feet before a 75-foot jump is like he's, you know, like jogging pace, like a slow jog at the bottom of this ramp. And it's like, I can't fucking whip at all. Like, I'm not there. But like the commitment level that those guys have to even just go that slow at a jump and know that they're still going to make it. Like, it's fucking insane.
Yeah, it is so sick. I really do enjoy, like, not that that side of it really benefits my racing or anything like that. That is not going to make me win Erzberg, but I just so enjoy like trying to figure it out. And like, for a trials guy, I think I'm doing pretty good, like on the whip front. Like certain jumps I can go not bad, like, and if you stood in the right place it can look really good, but that's like, I just enjoy learning it and figuring it out. And like Ed and Tommy will just be stood there like, what are you doing? Like, I'll be landing sideways, and because now if I lean a bit more, I'm starting to scrub so much speed off it. So then if I try and do a big one, I always come short because I can't. I'll hit the jump in a moto, same speed, no problem, every time. I'll then try and throw a big one, and it'll scrub so much speed, I'll not be going anywhere near fast enough. So then I'll be like knuckle bounce, like landing sideways, knuckle bouncing it, and they're just like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, it's fun. Like, I'm honestly just having the best day ever trying to figure this out. And then I'll get one that's pretty good, and they'll have give up watching us. They'll just be stood there just in case anything goes wrong, but they're not even watching us anymore. But to Tommy, it's just like, this is boring. He'd throw one big one and go, I've had enough for the day. And I'm just like, nah, this is so fun. I'm honestly enjoying myself so much here trying to figure this out. And I'll feel like I'll go a little bit more like the end of last year when I was riding here, and I started to sit down off the takeoff, and I'd be doing it a few times, and then I'd get it in a motor like most laps, and I'm just so buzzing with myself, and I'm just like straight airing it, like not even getting anything like cool whatsoever. But I just fucking sat down off that takeoff every lap, and I'm just little wins that you have with yourself. I just find it so cool.
Nah, I'm all there with you, and like I mean, I say it on here all the time, but like, to me, the fun of riding is just like trying to get better. Like, I'm not the guy that goes out and like, fuck, I don't even know what other people ride for if they're not trying to improve, and you know, like, because that to me is just like kind of the only
or just try
thing.
Something new as well, like whether it be, I don't know, some stupid like no under to stoppy landing or something like that, off of just whatever. Like, I don't know, there's always something that whether it be beneficial to my racing or what, I'll arrive to the track like in the back of my mind, whether I tell someone or not, like, I want to try this today. Like, I have somewhat of a goal. Most of the time, in fact, it's not beneficial. It's just something stupid. So it's better that I don't tell anyone and I just try it without them telling us not to do it.
What if you had to give people like your list of, all right, if you want to be a good all-round motorcycle rider, you need to know this, and this. Like, what are the things? Because, like, for me, with the martial arts stuff that I do, like, I went to class today, literally, like, my fucking hips hurt from just doing the same thing over and over. It's funny, actually, there's heaps of Russians here. And, like, me and this dude were, fucking everywhere. And this dude, we couldn't speak the same language at all, but we had the same thing to do. So, like, neither of us could converse about the technique that we're doing. And it was, like, a fairly complicated sort of, like, sequence. And it was like literally having a fucking Russian drilling robot. And for an hour, neither of us said a fucking word to each other. We just went 2 for 2, 2 for 2, 2 for 2, 2 for 2.
That's
and like,
brilliant.
Yeah, and
you don't need to, when you're both just in the zone, just enjoying what you're doing. It's like I actually think back, like when I was younger and I was doing like European Championship, and would be in like a practice area or like the week before the race, everyone's practicing. Like so many of the Spanish guys or whatever, like we can't speak a fucking, like they know a little bit English. Me and my a few of my English mates know Spanish, but we just have like the sickest little sessions ever, just fucking around. Like it's trials, so we're like hopping on the back wheel or something like that, like something what everyone else, what all you guys just going, what they're doing. But anyway, we'd literally be doing it till like the sun goes down, and then we couldn't even say anything to each other afterwards. And like, you know, now obviously Instagram's popped back up and like we still follow each other and liking each other's shit. Like, but it was like when we were like 12, 13, we'd just be trying to fuck around, hopping on the back wheel till the sun went down in just these random European countries. And it's like that's the best part about motorbikes for me, like the places and the people that you that come with it. It's just like you look back and think, it is so sick.
Well, that trials stuff, like what you're doing is kind of drilling in that sense. So like for me, that drilling that we did today, I've never really gone to the track. Like I've been riding my whole life. And like, because this is, I think, one of the downsides of motocross, unless you're like a kid where your dad like set you up to do like corner drills. Like Tommy was saying, he did like heaps of figure eights and stuff, but we didn't really have any of that. Like when I was a kid, our dad put our bike in the track, and then we got to the local track, and then at 10:20 you got your 10 minutes, and then at 11:40 you got another 10 minutes. You know, so like you didn't really do drills in that sense.
Yeah, unless you're like quite lucky. These back. Unless you're quite lucky, and actually, can I just go to the toilet real quick?
Yeah,
is that all right?
Yeah.
Just then we're good for another hour or whatever. I'll get a drink and go to the toilet.
Decided I should do the same. I've drunk fuck all water today too. I'm going to be cooked in the morning.
I've been holding it in for so long, and then I just thought, well, I'm not going to make it to the toilet if I hold it any longer.
Mate, yeah, you don't have to on this. I don't give a fuck.
I think about the, like what you're saying about the drills and stuff like that in moto, like unless you're lucky and you can have a free reign of a track, it's difficult to do.
Yeah.
And I know, like from when I was just started, like that was the most beneficial sessions I would have was like I'd ride obviously the public track or whatever, like till the end of the day, and then I'd get friends with the guy who was prepping the track or whatever for the next day, and I'd be like, oh, can I go for like half an hour or whatever, and like them like half hour or whatever at the ends of the day, like when you kind of got free roam, I definitely think was so beneficial to me. And like being able to hit 2 corners in a jump or whatever it might be, like over and over again, and even like just going down, I find like getting a clip for Instagram or whatever, like pounding something out, like obviously if it's like a stoppie or something, then again I also think there's benefits to like wheelies, stoppies, stuff like that in terms of like throttle control, brake control, but that's a bit of a, but like pounding out something to get an Instagram clip or whatever, like it's actually pretty like intense at times. And if you're like sessioning something pretty bad, like I remember I don't usually ride with a heart rate monitor. I'm not that big into them kind of stats and stuff like that, but I had one on once, and then I did a moto and just still left it running. Then went out to get a clip on like a super enduro track, I can't even remember what it was, but like my heart rate stayed at like 170, 180 for like the 15 minutes that I was there trying to get the clip. And I'm just like, it's technically, there's like actually something to say about that. But yeah, like for kids and stuff like that, it is quite difficult to get in that position, like where they can do figure it, especially if you don't have like land you can ride on and stuff like that. Like I would always, because enduro, we always had like, if I was training or whatever, it would be somewhere where there's open space or whatever. I would always try and do figure of eights or something like that, whereas understanding the balance of the bike and where to sit in flat corners and stuff like that. Like it might have been on like a super shitty gravel rocky car park, or sometimes even like sand. If it's somewhere sandy, it's pretty cool. But like I do think there's so much value in that kind of stuff, like the small things, and it's so beneficial to do at the time as well, and I think I'd try to do it as much as possible. I think if you could, as a kid, if you're focused on enduro and motor and not on the trial side of things, because trials you do it anyway. You go training trials and you set your section out and you do it until you've cleaned it, or you do it without putting your feet down. So that kind of happens without even thinking about it. But in enduro and in motocross, if you are a kid and you're looking to try and improve, it is to get in a position where you can do figure of eights or pounding out the same thing over and over. It does give you a lot of benefits.
Yeah, because I think that's definitely something like, yeah, since I started doing jiu-jitsu, you know, like it was just not something that we just didn't, I never really done like that drilling in a sense, you know, and then you see the benefits of it. Like there's some stuff like, well, pretty much all the competitions of like, I don't know, 30 plus fights that I've done in competitions, like pretty much all of them I've won with the exact same thing. And it's the thing that I've drilled the most, done the most, like that's just like my thing that I do. And it's like, then you go back and apply that to motocross. I'm like, fuck, there's nothing that I've done that I just have done over and over and over and over and over. And like we're signed up to do Fink this year. And have you ever heard of that race in Oz? Yeah. So me and Sammy signed up to do that. And I'm fucking scared to be honest. But
yeah, it's like, that's a sketchy one there. Which one's more gnarly, Fink or Hatter?
Fink's gnarlier, I reckon.
Fink's the gnarlier one. I don't really know the details of either, but I know Sanders was every time he was in the years he was in Europe, he was like desperate to go back home. He's like, nah, I only care about Fink now. That's all I'm bothered about. like he was selling it. He was selling it pretty hard to all those guys. To be honest, he was telling me how it was a pretty sick event.
Well, I think that this year or the 2021 that just went, I think it was nowhere near as gnarly. Like they just graded it. Like it used to just be fucking fifth gear whoops. Just that for it's 240 k's one way, and then you camp the night, and then it's 240 k's back, and it is fucking wedged. But apparently,
so that's the one where Toby did it on a bike and then got a helicopter back and did it in a car, right? Yeah. He's the king of that shit. He's won it like 6 times now, and then he's won it in the car and the bike. And in the truck and the bike. But like, yeah, it's fucking hectic. But apparently this year that just gone, it's a lot smoother. So it's just now like 5th gear, like dudes are blowing gearboxes because it's just like just the whole way. Yeah, that's that. Like when you get to top speed on a beachway straight, you think this is scary now. Like everything happens so much faster, and like this, the feeling of the wind on you, like you pick your head up and you're like, the difference of them speeds compared to what you're used to on a motocross bike or whatever is big. But going back to like the drills and stuff like that, like I bet there's times like all the guys now, whether it be documented or not, like they'll finish their motors or whatever, then they'll have seen somebody else try something, whether it be a wheel tap or they've tripled in or whatever, then they'll just find themselves pounding that over and over, like the end of a day or whenever it might be, and like, well, I know I do, or we do when we ride Super Enduro or whatever, and like that's probably one of like my favorite points of training as well, like when you've like narrowed it down, there's like 3 of you all just kind of doing like a little small section, and it's just pounding it out after lap after lap. Well, not even a full lap, but just smashing it out. Like I like really enjoy those kind of sessions.
You should try. So when Townley was living at Carmichael's farm, basically what they would do, this was like what Carmichael did his whole career, was basically you get a section, so it's like a quarter of the track, and then you get like 4 runs at it. I can't remember the details. Townley spoke about it in the podcast I did with him a couple of years ago, but it was like you get 4 runs at it, and then every one of them is timed, and then you take your best time from those 4 runs, and then you can't stop doing that section until you've hit that same lap time 10 times in a row. So that was like, yeah. So they did, I'm pretty sure they did like their 2 motos, and then they had to, so after they were already cooked, they had to do the 10. And sometimes BT's like, man, sometimes you're just there for fucking hours doing the same section over and over and over and over. He's like, it was just a mental grind.
Just a grind, yeah. But I think that is, on them situations, the mental side is where you benefited so much from that, because you know, like, there's nobody that's done that today. Like, I just smoked myself harder than anyone else to smoke themselves today. Yeah. Like, whether it be physically beneficial or not, there's probably arguments to say that you've probably done too much, and it's not going to be the physical adaptations of whatever you want to call it aren't going to benefit. But like,
yeah,
that was hardcore. What I've just done was fucking hardcore, and there ain't many else doing that. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, 100%. How do you go about choosing a 2-stroke or a 4-stroke? Because I think that's another cool thing about enduro riders, or like the world that you're living in, is like you can ride so many different bikes, and that would be fun in itself, I think.
Yeah, I feel pretty lucky that I'm in this position, and thankfully, like, Husky are super on board. I think as long as I'm winning the races, or I'm doing well in the races I'm supposed to do well in, they're happy to say, like, yeah, you can have a 450 motocross bike, you can do whatever, like, you can have a beach race engine to go and do beach races. Like, they're super, super on board with it, and which is cool. But it depends on the race more than anything. I think I actually, people are probably going to get mad at this, but I actually prefer to ride a 4-stroke. Like, most of the time, I enjoy riding a 4-stroke more. I feel I can... for like majority of just general riding, if I just had to pick a bike to go for a trail ride on or whatever, it would be a 4-stroke.
And what one do you like?
Between a 450 and a 350 or 450. I think if I needed to go from A to B as fast as possible, like around like a special test or like a classic enduro, I think a 450 is faster. I think because when I broke my leg a few years ago, I had drop foot for about a year, so my foot basically didn't lift up whatsoever, my left foot. So I still struggle to change gear quite a bit. So like I can't ride a 250 or a 125 fast anymore at all, just because I can't change gear fast enough. So yeah, like 450s are probably the best, like fastest for me to ride around a motocross track or to ride around a special test or whatever. But we ride a 350 4-stroke indoors for super enduro track. It's a cool bike. Like our bikes, the engines are pretty sweet. Like they rev pretty hard and they're geared pretty low just to try and avoid stalling it, or just because the tracks are super tight. But the engines have got so much grunt and like so much bottom end power. Like it's just like like it's so sweet to ride. Like when you're hitting logs, and it's quite difficult for most people to probably understand if they're not used to like smashing into logs, because usually you'd see a log on a track and I'm going to place my foot. I'm going to place my front wheel and I'm going to, use my body, whereas it's in a super enduro track where just like loading the thing up on the revs and just smashing into it and trying to jump as far as possible off it. Like it's pretty backward to comprehend, to be honest. I'm not going to lie, but it's cool. And then like the super gnarly extreme races, I do think a lot of them you could actually do pretty good, and there's advantages to riding a 4-stroke. But when it gets so difficult, where you got to start pushing the bike, and you need that instant power, that like whop and just like instant power and until just start pulling and lugging the bike around and stuff like that. The 2-stroke just definitely helps. I think these days there's not actually much difference in the weight, like the dry weight of the bike, but the 4-stroke definitely feels heavier, when you have to start like maneuvering it about, and you're going super slow and zigzagging or like weaving the bike through super technical things. I think it's naturally better on a 2-stroke. So most extreme races, I'd say like 95% of extreme races are hard enduros would be two-stroke. There's just the occasional one where it's not so technical and it's like the faster track and there's a bit of a speed element to it. But then, yeah, most other races, wherever possible, I would choose to ride a four-stroke just because I enjoy it more.
Yeah, and what two-stroke are you riding? Are you riding the 300?
Yeah, 300 TPI, just maximum power.
They're so good, aren't they?
Yeah, just maximum power. And I mean, like the fuel injection now, like I won't lie, when it first came out, was definitely it was new. It's new technology, like a two-stroke injected bike. Like it was a lot of change, and and they definitely had some teething issues to start off with. But now I would say they're such a good bike, and like the versatility of them and what you can do with them, and like you can just go for how long they just go and just ride. All you got to do is put fuel in them, and like they're just bulletproof, to be honest. Even stock bikes, like when I go to South Africa down to my girlfriend's place, I usually just get a stock bike there, or usually it's not even new, it's just like one of the team bikes from the season, but like a stock bike, and it just blows me away, to be honest, with how good they are. Like obviously our bikes are pretty special and we work quite hard testing and stuff like that, but then you get on a stock bike and you're like, fuck, these are actually like pretty sweet. It's it is quite impressive, to be honest. And I think like the KTM group between Husky, Gas and KTM, they're so far ahead in the thought process of certain things, and like the certain design areas and stuff like that. Like the position they're at now in terms of bikes is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I completely agree. I did a enduro race a couple years ago on the 300. I can't remember whether it was the TPI. How long's that been out for?
They came out in 17 or 18.
Maybe it was on
but
that.
If it was an XC model, I think they came out in 19. So it was like if it was the cross country model.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. It was definitely no.
But either way, yeah.
Maybe it was actually because it was
Did
there.
You have
it was
to
like
mix the petrol.
Oh, I didn't do shit.
That's full factory then.
Husky was just like, yeah, if I can ride this. I had the 350 and the 300 for this enduro race. It was like this 6 hour that one of those team races, he's actually like one of my best mates now, but he was like riding on this team Husky, and then it was the editor of one of the magazines, and Trent went out, did his first lap, broke his fucking foot, like broke his foot. So, and then the other dude was like half running the event, so I had to do this 6 hour race pretty much by myself, and I was swapping back and forward between the 300 and the 350, and I actually really liked the 300, and the Rosie from KTM Husky, she said, she's like, just put it in third gear and just leave it there. Just do the whole track. And I was like, nah, I went out the first lap and I was like in first and second. And then there was one section I was like kind of struggling with. And I did just put it in third gear. I was like, fuck it, I'm already doing shit. And I just put it in third gear and it just pulled its way smooth up the hill. It actually blew me away. And then when it's like half kind of hard enduro style and then half grass track motocross, and the thing fucking hammered on the motocross track.
Yeah,
I actually couldn't believe how fast it was.
Nah, they're for versatility and how much abuse they take. Like they just go forever. And like I know just from my training bikes, like if I'm away somewhere and I haven't got a mechanic with us or whatever, like they don't really get touched. I'm actually not too bad with the spanners. I just can never be asked to do it. Really, luckily, thankfully, I'm fortunate enough to not really need to. But yeah, they don't get touched much. I occasionally tap the dust off the air filter and they just go for hours and hours. Like you got to take your hat off for how well they're put together and how good they are.
Well, it's crazy too because like years and years ago, the like keep taking money, kick the mother, like they just had the worst reputation, and you were a kook if you owned one, and nowadays like you're a kook if you don't. Yeah, no, they've built up such a like respectable one. And I was actually at the factory last week for 2 days, and like went around the museum and stuff. The like motor hall, which has been open a couple of years, but for some reason, one reason or another, I'd never actually been round it and stuff. And like the history and like
where they've come from and what they've done, and like you get so much respect for the brand. To be honest, they've like really done a lot for like and thought about it, and you've got to give them a lot of credit. To be honest, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So to go back to the YouTube stuff, like when you were saying in your future plans, like you can see the YouTube like really factoring into it. I'm pretty stoked you actually said that. Like when I was talking to Tommy yesterday or the day before or whatever, I was sort of saying to him, like, I feel like you boys have like a big future with the YouTube stuff. Like you're just in the baby stages of it now, really. Like, I mean, you've been going a few years, but like I've been doing my YouTube for 4 or 5 years and going like super fucking hard at it. And it's even my shit's like, we're all in the baby stages of it. So it's like, I think it's cool that like Tommy almost doesn't see the future in it from what it seems like, but it sounds like you really do see like this could actually be a massive thing.
Yeah, I think Tommy just wasn't. I've been like a YouTube viewer like for a while. Like I'm like a big, like I followed Casey Neistat for so long.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And like not that it, again, doesn't really matter to like the bike world or whatever. Like say that to Tommy and he doesn't even the slightest totally idea. Yeah. He hasn't the slightest idea like how sick he is. Like we've got obviously a group, me, Ed and Tommy, and then I'll like post a video. I'll like send a link to one of his old vlogs, like because like when he used to like daily vlog, like for how good as shit he used to make every day, like it's just like so sick. Like I have so much respect for it and like rate it so much. And like me and Ed obviously talk, and Tommy's just like, who's this? What's this? Like, but obviously like he's now sort of seeing like the benefits to it for him and stuff like that. And like he does definitely like enjoy making videos and stuff like that. He's just obviously doesn't really understand and not being a viewer of it, so he doesn't really see like the ceiling levels. He hasn't seen the ceiling for it and stuff like that, whereas like I've obviously kind of followed it even from like the Brandon Semenuk days and stuff like that, and like still watch. I don't even watch TV. If I turn the TV on, it just goes straight to YouTube, and I watch like a Jamie O'Brien vlog or something like that, and like I see like how many people or how I see our base hasn't the potential to be something like by itself. Like I do see what we have if we wanted to, and it's difficult, like, and it's getting better, but there's always like a fine line of, you're not focused on racing or you're not working hard, and then to be honest, like Husky are actually really good, and like the team managers, everything like that, like they've seen. I did a vlog. I did like every race last year. I did a vlog for the Husky channel. I did a vlog for my channel, and then obviously did the race. I did the race. Yeah, like they're on board, like they're supporting. I think this year I'm the only rider on the team, so they're just going to support my vlog for my channel, but like they're super on board, and like obviously got the results last year. They've seen like at the end of the day, we all have downtime in the day, like to hold the camera and talk to the camera for 10 minutes every couple of hours. If it's not a big deal, like don't stress about it. If whatever for one day of the race you don't get a chance to film a clip or whatever, like doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but they're super on board with it. And I think now like attitudes are changing. Like a lot of the Supercross guys are vlogging now. Like a lot of the Supercross teams have started vlogging this year and stuff like that, which is good. And it's definitely, I think just the whole attitude's changed. But I think like it also, for it to really grow to that big level, there needs to be a want to do it. At the same time, like you've got to be on board and you've got to kind of invest in it, which I do see happening. And like at the moment in time, I kind of just want it to grow in the background nicely. And I think there will be a point where I think, okay, that's what I want to focus on now. I want to grow that. But for now, like I said before, there's races I want to do and races I want to win. So whatever happens to the vlog in the meantime or the YouTube channel is any growth it does is a bonus. Like I enjoy making videos. I'm going to make videos whether I make any money from doing it or whether they get views or not. Like that's just what I enjoy doing. I enjoy editing them in my downtime. Like it's the whole setup of it I enjoy. Like obviously I could do more and I could be more productive if I wanted to put more effort into it, but just at this stage in time I'm not quite there yet. But like I said, I think there will be a time when I think, okay, let's get Ed in a bit more, get some actual plans for actual like, you know, upload dates and do a lot more. But at this moment in time, I kind of like the fact it's a little bit freestyle, a little bit here, there, and everywhere, and it kind of matches where I'm at in my life. Really, I'm in Spain training, then I come back for a British Championship, and now I'm at home. We've got a couple of videos planned this week, a couple of mountain bike videos, and like some cool shit planned. But then next 3 weeks, I'm back in Spain and I'm training, and you know what I mean. It kind of matches my lifestyle at the minute, and if I can show that a little bit, you know, like naturally just doing what I do and filming what I film and stuff like that, that's cool. And like I say, if it comes to the point where people want to get involved, like I'm really, really happy and stoked that Husky are so keen on it. Because at first, you know, like I know how a couple of the guys, like the bosses are, and I thought, I was always kind of waiting for the phone call, like, you can't do that, you can't do this. But to be honest, I've not been told off for anything yet and told not to do something, which is cool. Like I think the marketing guys and stuff like that have really sold it to like the racing people, like how important it is, which is cool. I can see both sides to it, but I see the whole industry is only going to go more in that direction. Like that's the future. That's the way it's heading. Like whatever head start you get is only going to benefit you. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the way everyone's going. Soon everyone's going to be trying to do it, but you've got to want to do it for it to be successful at the end of the day. Like if you start a vlog because some companies pay loads of money to make a vlog, people are going to see through it, in my opinion, or I'm going to see through it, so I'm not going to watch it. Do you know what I mean? Like I say, I'm going to make vlogs whether it makes money or not. At the end of the day, it's cool that Husky are on board, it's cool that some other people are on board, and if it comes to that point where I really have an opportunity to do it, then I would consider it more. But I'm happy to go with whatever direction it is. I just see there's so much potential, you're almost stupid not to do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, and I just think that like the general consumer landscape is changing. And like, I mean, how many people do you see running a Fox T these days? You know, like it's sort of just, people are changing to where merch is more of a thing. Yeah. Like people want to be like active consumers. They want to, you know, like you just dropped your merch that is fucking killing it. Like we sell a bunch of merch. Like it's sort of, I buy Team Fried shit. I buy, I get Daniel Ricciardo stuff. Like there's all the, you know, all my boys that I love and all like my people that I'm involved with. Like, you know, Julian Wilson just dropped his, like literally a full brand. So like he hasn't done merch. He's done his own brand called Rivia Projects, and it's fucking legit. So it's like, there's a reason to buy people's shit. It's not like, Fox has done this. Like they don't even give you a say in it. It's like, this is your signature thing for the year. Yeah. It's like, that's 1990s shit. You know, so
there's so much more personality kicking around these days, and people can buy into that if they want to. If they don't, they buy into something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like it's almost makes you feel like you're a part of the community, and you're a part of that, like that person's success. And if you buy Billy Bolt merch, like you're helping Billy Bolt. And it's, I think that's the same thing. Like when people buy Gypsy Tales merch, it's like, oh, I know that this money goes into the channel, which is like what I love kind of, you know, watching or whatever. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And how, like, to portray it naturally as well, like, you know, you can plug the merch and just say like, we got this to pay for, but it's all like, at the end of the day, people are just getting involved in, like, even just from that, like I did the British Championship yesterday and we did like not bright pink, but like a pale pink beanie, and I've seen so many of them kicking around at the British Championship yesterday, and it's so cool. And so many people are like stoked to come up to you and show you they've got a hoodie on and show you they've got a hat on, and it's just like, it's so cool to see. Like the response I had yesterday at like the British Championship race, it was honestly so nice, and it's 100% from the YouTube side of things. People just getting involved, and people feeling like they're kind of part of it. Like, it's just builds like such, everyone's kind of got their own, well, not everybody, but the people that are doing it have kind of got their own little community now, and it's like, just, it's only going to go more in that direction.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, man. So if I come to Europe and want to do a race, what should I do? I've always wanted to do Western Beach race. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, I've done Western twice. Western's a sick race.
Is it
I
good?
Really yeah.
Because I like doing dumb shit that I have no business doing.
It's a grind, and like any kind of beach races, like the straights, like gnarly, and it gets a bit of a slog. Well, actually, the last year I did it, it wasn't as wet, and it was quite sandy, so it was actually still, well, it was a good mix, I would say, between the slogging, the ruts, and the bogs, and like the Western quicksand, and then the fluffy sandy like whoop sections and stuff. But Western's cool. I didn't actually do it last year. I had a race the same weekend, which I was pretty bummed off. But I think this year it's free, so that's on the cards. But that is a cool race. I would 100% recommend going to do that. But in terms of like hard enduro, it depends, because like if you want the sickest, most insane riding experience, going to the most crazy mountain ridges, and like I would say go and do Romania in like a silver or probably a bronze class. Like, because Romaniacs has gold, silver. Oh, really? Yeah, Romaniacs has gold, silver, bronze, and iron.
Okay, I'm interested.
So like a bronze class, or it depends on how. Silver, I think from what I've heard, is still pretty tough. Like, you're still having a long day, whereas bronze is a bit easier, but you're still riding in the mountains. You're still doing 4 days of just insane, like riding wise, or what you could probably do, like a silver, like with a mate, and kind of team up and get each other through. That would probably be like a bit more of a grind.
Me and Tommy Silver.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'd quite want to be teaming up with Tommy. It'd be good for about an hour until he's got wet feet, and then his dummy comes out. But yeah, like a silver or bronze at Romania is just the most insane riding experience.
Really?
Like, just from it, I would say so. Just from like the emotions you go through. Whereas like Erzberg, or there's a new race in Italy called Abistone. It was its first race last year, and like it's really small little ski resort, but obviously it's summer, so it's like you're racing up like the ski pistes and the ski slopes, and then there's like some super gnarly like rock sections, but on some really like steep real steep hills, but like big boulder fields. Like, it was its first year last year, and for its first year race, it was a really sick job. But it's such a cool location, and they've got around for next year. So I think that race definitely has potential to grow into something really big, just because of like the area and the scenery and everything like that. But obviously, like Erzberg is like the OG. It's still, from like a riding perspective, if you want like hours on your bike for your money, it's probably not the best one to go to, but just as a whole atmosphere and a week of just motorbike carnage, it's pretty good. Like the whole week before, I mean, it's not like on like a Motocross Donations campsite level, but it's like pretty up there with the wildness of just what you see. Like, take like a trip or ride through the campsites and stuff like that, and it's like you look around thinking, oh, these boys are here for a good time. And then just the whole like atmosphere, and the mine itself is just so big. It's like unexplainably big once you like get up to it in person, and it's just a cool week of just like everyone enjoying motorbikes and stuff like that. Like, but again, not that much riding if that's what you want, but it's a cool experience. So it's depends on what you're after, really.
Yeah, I actually didn't know I just thought that the hard enduro stuff, like, it's just pretty off limits for like an average dude. Like,
that's kind of one of the selling points, really. That's why it is so popular. Like, a lot of the races have other classes and other things involved. Like Erzberg is a rare exception. But now most races like cater, because like Romaniacs, I think it's like 600 entries.
Really?
Yeah, like 600 people sign up, and there's like 20 or 30 on the gold class, and then the rest are just scattered through the rest of the ranks. But yeah, like I'd say probably the bronze and iron is probably the biggest categories of just kind of like your middle-aged guy or your hobby guy. That's just, it's like the ultimate. It's like the ultimate, really. And like there's a load of it's almost a bit of its own industry, really. There's like companies that do service packages and stuff like that, a little bit similar to like the Dakar side of things, but it's gone into a bit of an industry. And there's a couple of other races like that. Like there's a race called Sea to Sky in Turkey, which isn't actually part of the championship, but that's another cool race where it's 3 days, one race on the beach, like an enduro cross track on the beach, which is cool, and then like a smaller race and then the final day, which you start on the beach and you race to the top of this mountain, which is it's about 40 k's the race, and I think it's like 2,000 meters up at the top of the mountain. That's a cool race to do, which also is that race has like its bronze finish, so you get like 20 k's in, you get a bronze medal, and you can stop or you can keep going. Then there's like the silver finish, like 2/3 of the way through. If you get there, you get the silver medal, and if you get to the top, you're obviously a gold finisher. So that is like one of the selling points. It's like the mass participation events, which is the cool thing as well. Like, you know, anyone can kind of go and share a paddock or share a start line with kind of us guys too. It's one of the reasons I think it has grew to be so popular. You know, whereas it's difficult. Your average guy buys a motocross bike, he's never going to get in the same paddock, be in the same race as Jeffrey Hurlins. Do you know what I mean? I think it is one of the appeals, which is what they're really trying to keep as a core value, like, of the sport. Obviously now it's FIM and getting serious, and it's a big championship and stuff like that, and it's obviously all the races on like Red Bull TV and whatever else. But they're really trying hard to keep that core value of it being like, you know, the mass participation, and any of the hobby guys can get involved if they want.
Yeah, that's sick. I actually never knew that. So what's next for you? Like the next little stint you got coming up here?
Yeah, I've got there's 2 rounds left of the Super Enduro World Championship for this year.
You winning that?
I'm leading that at the moment. 3 rounds left. There's one in Israel in like 2 weeks' time, and then a double header, like 2 rounds on the same weekend in Germany. So 3 rounds left technically of the Super Enduro World Championship. So that's kind of the main priority now for the next month or so, and then we'll finish that and head back onto the 2-stroke and start testing for outdoors and stuff like that. I think we're gonna, obviously there's the new KTM Husky is coming out. I think we're going to start riding that like midway through this year, which is like a year early for the enduro bike. So we've got quite a bit of testing to do with that and stuff like that. But no, just messing around really. I'm back home in the UK for this week. Yeah, Ed's fucking about for now, and got a couple of video stuff planned. Just trying to cram it all in really. Like I've spent more time away than I was really planning to be honest, this year, just because the weather's been so shitty in the UK, and I've been busy with some other stuff. So yeah, just got a few little video stuff I'd promised to do for various sponsors or whatever. So a busy week this week with Ed, just fucking around, ticking all the boxes and messing about on bikes, and then I'll go back to Spain next week and get back to somewhat serious work.
Well, mate, I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. I'm stoked we did it. We made it happen, and big shout out to Ed and Kex, his little undie company, and then all your merch is through that as well, right? So how do people get that? So
kexunderwear.com, they've got obviously all Ed stuff. It's we should try and do it this week, try and explain a bit more of what's going on, because I do actually get asked that question quite often. So all my stuff's on kexunderwear.com. There's like a separate Billy Boat 57 merch range, and then obviously you can check out all the undies and all what Ed's got going on clothing wise and stuff like that, which is going pretty good for him. But that's what's so cool, I think, about of all our what we're doing is like we're just fucking around on bikes, having a good time, showing what we're doing. It's kind of benefit to all of us really. He sells more. He edits a few videos for her and sells some more pants at the same time. Our social profiles go up. Sponsors like it. Do you know what I mean? It's a cool time we're in, and like cool vibe to be part of what like we've got going on back here right now. I think like I said before, it's only heading in more in that direction, but we're just winging it for now. It's gone pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean honestly, like I feel the same sort of thing over here. Like, I mean, my brother does a lot of, like, he does Toby's management and Jack doing and all the boys, and then Sammy's got Fist and Rat, and you know, then I'm doing the podcast, and we're all helping each other. And then it's like, now I've reached out to you boys, and it's like, righto, let's all get this podcast done, you know, like I got Tommy yesterday and then you today. It's like everyone's kind of hustling and helping each other, and no way does anyone if anyone feels like you got to keep shit to yourself and be fucking separate, and you know, like, oh, I'm not going there, not doing that, then you're just a dickhead, because
there's
in
no
this
need
world
for
it all we're all helping each other out.
There's no need for, at the end of the day, we're all just like riding bikes and messing around and having a good time with your mates. That's what it's about. That's why we started it, and why not keep it going?
And all try and help each other make a few quid while we're at it.
Exactly, and if we're all selling a few bits and bobs, sponsors are liking it, people are enjoying watching it, there's kind of no reason that it can't work out.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Billy Bolt, you're the fucking man. You are the fucking man. I love it. I'm stoked. I'm
not going to be able to fit out of this door. My head's going to be so big when I'm doing it now.
Just give your old boy a call.
Yeah, he'll bring it back. He called us this morning, actually. I'm sure he's about to tell us how good my sister did at the weekend, and now she's going to be better than me.
Oh, fucking hell, yeah. Hey, that's how it works, but hey, daddy's girl.
Yeah, proper. He's all in. He's schoolboy dad. He's all for it now. She's God's gift. Billy can't do nothing. Billy's a waste of time, but it's all good.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, cheers, mate. And best of luck with everything. Hopefully I can get over there. I was saying to Tommy, I'm going to try and get over at some point. Some point soon. And there's a bunch of shit to do over there. So that'd be sick. Whatever happened, like I say, if you're in Europe and there's a race on or whatever, I'm sure we can try and make a plan of somewhere to get a bike or somewhat even a podcast, or like I said, there's a world of possibilities out there. Just see what happens. Sweet, mate. Well, we'll do this again sometime for sure.
All right, sick. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks,
Cheers.
guys.
Cheers, brother. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.